Operation Whipback and the Mexican Repatriation Act. That was in the 50s, and the other one was in the 30s. And they deported millions of Americans, Mexican Americans, Mexicans born in the U.S. So I hear you, brother. I hope that you use your voice to help innocent American citizens who have been caught up in this.
Well, that's your voice. I mean, I live stream myself, but I can also show you a lot of extremely dangerous individuals that I would call domestic terrorists who are illegal alien invaders dedicated to criminal conspiracy as well as, violent crime. And I can show you hundreds of innocent victims murdered by illegal alien terrorist invaders, and it's not controversial in my opinion to have that opinion, because you could talk to the parents of any of these young people that were murdered, and they would say, yeah, like, I want that murderer capitally punished, murdered him, I want that murderer murdered, or I want that murderer killed. And that's unfortunately not happening. In Illinois, we spend 600 million a year housing people on death row. 600 million a year. The state is 200 billion in debt. The city of Chicago is 200 billion dollars in debt. The debt is going to sink the ship because it's like piling, invisible paperweights up. But Zen is here, and Lanisha and Neda, Shaggy, welcome. We're also live on X Spaces. We've been live streaming Clownhouse Rooms as we usually do. I listened in to Hermes have a one-on-one with Pro, and welcome, Shaggy. And Hermes, just told us a couple things. He said some things that he didn't give background to, some assumptions that we knew about some situations that we didn't know about. But Shaggy, this is Jonathan Olson. Are you Irish, sir?
The fuck? Do you remember my Do you really? Oh, you really remember my name? But please don't say it live, okay?
Hello?
Hello? Hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello?
So welcome to Clown House Roasts, where we roast you. Are you prepared to join the barbecue?
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Oh my god.
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Hi, thanks for calling 1-800-COMPLAINTS. How can we direct your call?
Wait, can you hear me?
Hello?
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 Hi, this is the Jewish Complaint Department. How can I direct your call? Hello?
Are you kidding me?
Hello? Hi, this is the Jewish Complaint Department. How can I direct your call? Hello? Hello?
What do you mean Jewish?
Hello?
What do you mean Jewish?
Hi, this is the Jewish Complaint Department. How can I direct your call? Welcome back to Clown House Roasts. This is a barbecue party. We're here to roast you. Can you pass me the coleslaw?
Are you trying to derp me here?
Derp me? Hello?
Yeah, you can hear me. You can hear me. You little rascal. You can hear me.
Hello? Little rascal. Somebody called me a trickster the other day. They're like, yeah, just ignore him. He's a trickster. And then they went into all these ways that I'm a trickster. And I was like, Man, this is intense. Like this guy really, really, is calling me out, and he's not wrong. I think I'm very much like Loki or something. Like the mask, like Jim Carrey, gives you, trickster power.
I do love trickstery too, but I wasn't prepared for it right now. I was like, I thought that you connected me to another phone, to a Jewish compartment or something. I don't know. Some people do that, like they connect the phone to put all the people on another call. That they have another phone, they call a number, and they put the phone to the other phone. Right? Oh, come on. Kurva.
Okay, so, I play music. I play music too. I don't just talk. And I read books, but I play music. So I'm gonna play you a little song. I'm gonna dedicate it to my friend Hermes here.
Huh?
I'd like to dedicate this song to my friend Hermes, and I hope you get what you're looking for, which is always gonna be satisfaction. Here we go.
So I was saying it was alive the whole time, so it's not a question of if it's alive, it's where rights begin life begins at conception, rights begin at birth. Until then, you're under the sovereign rule of the person carrying you to term.
Right. The will to live is imparted by the person carrying the term, right? Carrying the child. The will to live, the personhood, right, of that
Carrying the child. So if I understand
pre-viability,
as long as the
pre-viability, the only will that thing has is imparted by the mother.
It has no free will of its own. It doesn't have autonomy. Yeah.
When does it have free will of its own?
Probably around age 8. So post-birth abortions all the way, man.
There you go. That's a position you can sell.
I would argue that will to live, comes at the point where, if a baby is going to be pulled out of the womb and take a breath, it has a will to live.
So
Otherwise, it just lay there and suffocate, like it.
Yeah, I just think you guys are not willing to do the work. I think you're lazy.
The work
Because
to
you're
what?
not willing. You're not willing.
You do know that allowing, at a minimum, first trimester abortion, right, actually prevents more childhood deaths and abortions. And it prevents women from being, gravely injured and not being able to have children in the future. So, like, if you're all about more babies, then you would support the right to, like, at least early term abortion and medically necessary abortions.
I have, to that point, I had kids largely because my wife was able to have an abortion for a medical emergency. Without that being available, my 2 kids wouldn't exist. So I like my kids. So fuck you, Benjamin, for wanting to kill my kids.
yeah, that's a pretty good. I see the bit right there.
Yeah. There you go.
Stop trying to kill my kids.
Yeah, if we're talking about potential life, you have to weigh all the potential and the quality of that life.
Oh, the quality of life now. So if people have a low quality of life, we should just take them, put them into Soylent Green.
I think that once you're alive and on the earth, it's up to you to determine what your quality of life is.
Jesus Christ, leading it up to the baby. Damn.
Poor Michaela's been toiling away in the audience, and we haven't even said hello. You've been there forever. What's up, Michaela?
I'm just listening. I'm working, and I'm seeing how Benjamin is going to handle this.
Well, I'm just lucky that we're back on abortion when I was literally, like, Benjamin is unwilling to talk about the Heritage Foundation
Hold on. I want to make sure
to get women out of the workforce and stuck in abusive marriages and not have access to economic independence. That's what I'm talking about.
Let's make really clear and plain for Benjamin that, you're on Team Michaela, and she's just here to support you, Benjamin. So, are you comforted by that? Well, Benjamin, do you need help on your team?
I know where Michaela stands. Michaela has a monster number of 1.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, she prays to a God who kills children based on reasons.
So,
How's that different than your Epstein number?
I don't.
Benjamin's Epstein number is at least a 3, I think, safe.
Yeah, Epstein number is like how many people in your circle, your professional whatever, are implicated or degrees of freedom away from Epstein.
That's unfortunate for me because I actually have met and done business with Merritt Paulson, which links me to Henry Paulson, which links me to like pretty.
Be careful with guilt by association. That's gonna spread.
So you start as baby killers and then you're off to pedo land. See, Benjamin, that's how it is.
Benjamin, I did want to talk to your thing before we say hello to Marshall and everybody, but I think whenever you do this something for Trump thing that you love to do, where you're like, it's not that the people are dumb or whatever, and like, it's not that most people are dumb. Like, in theory,
Like cars, Fred. These are all not considerations that was just being left out in the open that you'd in fact. Wait.
Trump's president make us worse at all those things.
Yeah, if I did, right, or I didn't, it doesn't address anything that I did, unless you're assuming that Trump is the sole person who can rectify that kind of. Most of the words which you just said in that sentence, Trump could not complete in a coherent sentence. So that we're on the same terms here. I would hope you'd agree to that. And the likeliness that he could rectify any of those things that you said any more than anybody else is only based in the opinion that you believe that he's a USA flag-waving guy and only he's pro-steel and pro-manufacturing, right? So if that is the risk you want to do, you're right back at what I just said, which you basically ignored about everybody else in the country, and it positions you to be who I'm talking about. So I might as well speak directly to you. When an action has some kind of non-trivial probability of causing this irreversible institutional damage is what I'm talking about. The rational strategy is to minimize downside, not maximize the upside of the weird kind of prognosis that you sort of as an alternative is as a mind exercise. If Al Gore had said to himself, there's nothing in the Constitution that allows the Supreme Court of the United States to decide the next president of the United States. The Supreme Court of the United States doesn't have a role. It is the Congress that has the role in validating whom the electors are. If the Supreme Court wants to tell me that I can't count the votes in Florida, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my electors to get on an airplane, go to Washington, D.C., and ask the Congress to decide whether my electors should be accepted or their electors be accepted. And maybe Congress can have a hearing, as Congress is authorized by the Constitution, to decide questions such as this. I would offer, Al Gore would have been perfectly justified in saying, this is not a question for the Supreme Court of the United States. This is a question for Congress. Here's my electors. Go ask Congress.
Okay. Okay, so how does that begin? Hey, we have 4 people here claiming to be 2 people. How do you introduce that to the court, Benjamin?
They show up and they present a letter which says, in essence, the electors before you are fraudulent because
And then you show up and you say you're a Spartacus.
because the vote count did not conclude, the votes were not counted. The acts of Congress is for voters that the state has said fraudulently are the consequences of the election. That's fraud. We reject the fraud. Except instead an open Congress, which means the state owns the sovereignty to elect this and say all the branches of government are illegitimate unless I win, then they're legitimate. It's a threat. But you can criticize a board
party, but you can't
that puts down a red carpet for its own delegitimization. And voting court is a red carpet for its own delegitimization. So Trump walking up that red carpet, okay. Blame Trump. I don't.
I blame Obama.
I would say the Supreme Court wrote their own delegitimization script. I blame Obama and Michelle for putting their own heads on the monkey pictures that he posted today, because it was their fault, Benjamin. Let's be contrarian about that, right? I blame Obama for the racism of Trump, right? Because that's essentially how ridiculous you want to be with your contrarianism, right? Just to make it more interesting and fun. Like when you choose willfully bad arguments just because you want to go against the group.
talk or? Oh, look, dude's on stage. Dude, you been listening?
Yeah. My fun point here is that both Bush and Gore were part of Skull and Bones.
For real, dropping knowledge.
Oh shit, hold on, I got Epstein right here on
All my conspiracy friends wanted to say back then, like, who cares? Who cares what secret society they're in? They're drinking blood, like whatever, who cares?
Yeah, let's all be ignorant.
Listen, Epstein Island, but then there's also Sir Richard Branson Island. There's a lot of islands, okay?
Yeah, I just done the quick AI search instead of going through all the other stuff, but it says, the AI search says, yes, Congress has the right to challenge the electors. And at the point of challenge, the House goes into session, the Senate goes into session. If the two things can't be resolved, it's kicked to the courts. So electors sent by the states are not the sole province of the state. Well, that's not how the Constitution lays it out, and it was updated in 2022 for objections. The mechanism is if there's an objection to a slate of electors, the House goes into session, the Senate goes into session, a simple majority decides the objection. If it can't be resolved between the two bodies, the objection moves to the courts. So it isn't the sole province of the state to say who and what is going to be there. The state gets to send them. The Congress at that point, once they're sent, can make an objection to what the state done. And at that point, it goes to the House and the Senate. They take a simple vote. If it can't be resolved, it goes to the court. So it's not just a state. So Congress
One
does have
senator
roles
learns
to
about
play.
this, and they say, hey, is this true? And then they go and ask the security people to verify, do basic due diligence.
We're
Before
talking
you
about
have to bring in
impersonating the electors, bro. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about people that impersonated the electors. We do know we're talking about the same thing, right?
Well, I was talking about before you brought up the issue of fake electors, the mechanism to challenge electors. I wasn't getting into the fake electors at a new set. But here's the situation. If in the case, if there was objections raised in the Congress by the House and the Senate, and they could agree with the election that the objection was sustainable, what do you do with the electors that are there if they're deemed unqualified to be there by the Congress? At what point, what do you do with them?
Why is that an issue when they illegally people?
It's an issue because it's part of the mechanism of the Congress. That's why it's an issue.
Congress has the security apparatus. Those are people who work at the NSA, CIA.
No, the Congress has a vote. It's not a security apparatus that decides this. They go into session.
Those people do their due diligence.
Benjamin,
They
is this
go.
your best and brightest that you want to represent right here? Is it your best and brightest? Is it that's what we're playing with? Even let's swap this argument for Donald Trump, and we you know damn well what we're talking about. He sent a fake slate of electors and impersonated to be other human beings. And I'm telling you that is the first step in a constitutional crisis, having a president who's willing to do that. A second step is having an angry mob go to your own fucking capital, bro. That's what he did. And you're like, no problem, nothing to see here. Let me find an article that supports it. As opposed to the
No, I wasn't saying find the article.
So
I was
you
saying
are the epitome of my point.
No,
You're putting words in his mouth. You're putting words in his mouth.
You're what I'm saying because No, what you guys was saying was basically
Bro,
this.
You're not interrupting.
Let me get the point out.
Nothing like that has ever happened.
Let me get my point out before you start talking.
They're not gonna do that, though, just FYI.
You've been getting your point. You're a dumbass. Is that my point?
Okay, go ahead, Steve. Come on, get it out.
Well, what besides base set of electors argument was going on here, and what was reiterated to me on more than one occasion was the Congress didn't have shit to say about what the state's done. And what I just brought back to you is yes, the Congress is the final check, and here's their mechanism. And it's not some security agency. A security agency doesn't get to go into the House, it doesn't get to go into the Senate and vote. And at the point, if the objection was raised about a particular state, and there was a disqualification of those electors, what do you do? That was my point. Not this other point you can bring up.
What if your president sent 4 people to shoot them instead? Would you still turn into this? Would you still be looking up and turning to page 15? Bro, he broke the law, right? The law, bro. You can't impersonate people. There's nowhere that you need to look in the Constitution to know that that threatens the Constitution when it's the freaking executive branch. Your executive branch is the state elected. I understand what the
Let's
problem
say
is.
the impersonation was there.
Answer the question.
Let's say the impersonation was there.
Just hang on for just a minute, Steve. Answer the question that Bro asked me. No, Steve is not the best example I would pick. What I don't like about
We just throw him under the bus.
he's not being honest about why he voted for Trump. He's doing this thing where he's defending Trump at the nibbling ankles, and he's not saying why not. If you talk to my in-laws, the people in my family that voted for Trump, they'll be very honest why they voted for Trump. It says, look, we think that society ought to protect the weakest. We think babies are the weakest. And we see that issue is not a priority for the Democrats, and it's a priority for the Republicans. So we're going to vote Republicans. That's pretty straightforward, and it's morally grounded. Steve is not making, in my opinion, a morally grounded argument. I don't know if that's because he doesn't have one or if he hasn't been honest. But he's
I got one.
Oh, yeah. In the face of declining population, that's a good point, Benjamin.
Benjamin said it nicer. I was going to say the exact same thing as Benjamin, which is stunning. I was going to say, what do you really want Steve to win? Is it because you're racist? Is it because you think he's saving you taxes? Tell us why you're booty clapping for a guy who's trying to ruin the country, bro. Like, that's what I want to know. Once you have certification...
I'll tell you.
He said he's ready to talk, bro. He's going to tell you.
Just the booty clap.
Well, I'll tell you if you let me say it. Number one, I think the country has to be energy independent. I voted for that. Number two, I think the manufacturing base as a national security issue needs to be addressed. I've thought this for 20 or 30 years. That was another issue with me. Number three, I thought we've gotten crazy land with all this stuff where we had people dressing up and going into bathrooms and stuff. I thought that was a moral issue that was letting too much crazy land get into the greater society. That's the reason I voted for it. The idea that we are just going to print money, quantitative easing, that we're going to print money and we are not going to print.
Well, I missed what was the security issue? I heard your first and your third thing, but what security issue did you say? I missed it.
Well, the security, like I say, the security issue is the fact that our manufacturing base cannot take care of the necessary things we need to be a functioning economy. That's a huge issue for me that hasn't been addressed through the
population
The globalized world 5 years ago, that was not
was
necessary.
under 200 million, but now that we're like 350 million, there's not enough resources on the continent, right, to support manufacturing everything in the United States.
Well, no, but you see, it's strategic. I mean, if you go
Do you know
before, you
why
gotta
we
have...
don't make microchips here? Non-Hodgkin
why.
lymphoma.
Pardon me?
Among other things, a lot of diseases are resultant. Like, watch the documentary about Samsung in South Korea. And look at the cancer rates there. That's why we got rid of these industries. That's the
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Yes,
When
it
you
is.
start
That
following,
is-
when you
that
when
is
you start following the
literally
computer in
secret.
industry.
We don't do that
I
anymore.
started following the computer industry in 1980. When
Are
did you?
carcinogenic.
I started following the computer industry in 1982. When did you?
Any sort of
Yeah, see, but it's
microchip
changed greatly since then, and you don't seem to have
Well,
like.
no, I mean, I know the history. I know the history of why it was offshore. I know the actual history behind this. The history behind this was like Fairchild, Intel, Texas Instruments. These were the big fabrication labs in the United States. All right. Well, it was simple.
Yeah, it's really hard to make microchips in a tropical climate, right?
No.
Yeah, lithography is difficult because parameter controls of the environment have to be precise. 50,000 droplets of tin fall down and you hit it with the laser and you vaporize it, and that creates ultraviolet light strong enough to reflect off of a bunch of shit and make little microchips for you. And you think that that's not going to have toxic elements in it? Like the
Well, sure, it's going to have toxic elements, but toxicity had nothing to do with it. Intel, Fairchild, oh no, and they won. They shipped it overseas. They shipped it overseas to save money. Period.
We didn't want to poison our soil. We didn't want to poison our water.
Somebody put you in kindergarten gear. I don't know what
And
happened. You're saying yes it is, yes it is.
Nobody's called bullshit on your line of reasoning, Steve. So I wanna talk about you pushing back on my argument and the hilariousness of what you've actually just done. I said it's a national security threat. It's a constitutional crisis. And you came back with bathroom security and convoluted our manufacturing base is what you think national crisis. You are exactly the kind of stupid listener who I am talking about, because you can't get out of your own way because of the trans people, and you have put that in your mind on equal footing, and you are actually defending a constitutional crisis of a president who is a traitor because you have more transgenders, probably because of your strong Christian.
No, I said that as at the bottom of my list of concerns. At the bottom of my list of concerns.
That was the biggest bullshit LARP I've heard in weeks on this.
Well, whatever, dude.
When I tell you credible threats to our entire country's security system, and Benjamin's looking for one of you to step up, and you come with the fucking traditional bullshit white male national Christian. I stared at people in the bathroom, fucking moron shit. Back to the fucking cave you came from, Steve. You fucking
there we go.
Bullshit one.
I mean, you know, you could just like take.
You can take it like that. Say something. Lying down on your fucking back, you bullshit fuck.
10 times in the fucking back.
I love that I got to see the angry professor. I think we're all very fortunate to see the angry professor. Thank you for your presence.
There's nothing worse than the "I'm the nice, reasonable Southern white guy" trope. Like, fuck that.
I feel like that's definitely a Russian spy.
So the guy Steve, I think he gave 3 reasons why he voted for Trump. The second one I thought was pretty important. He said he voted for Trump for national security reasons, and I mean that's problematic. There's a big problem with that, and it has to do with AI and semiconductors. Okay, you guys probably heard about this, but this doesn't get talked about.
If someone like him says national security, he's just talking about brown people in this country. He doesn't want the brown people. It's just code for that. It really is. It's that simple. I'm not
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, but we don't like the Chinese either.
Okay, that's also a part of this. The Chinese are also a part of the story I'm about to tell you right now. So, okay, here's the timeline of events, right? January 16th, 2025. A UAE-linked investment vehicle, I'm just reading here from the internet, called REM Investment One signed an agreement to buy 49% of World Liberty Financial, which is a cryptocurrency company that Trump's family owns. Okay, we've probably heard about this. And they spent, their investment was $500 million into this company that is owned by Trump's family. Okay, cryptocurrency company. Okay, this UAE company gave Trump personally, his family, $500 million. Okay, $500 million. March, and then that was January 16th. January 20th, he was inaugurated as president.
Elliot, we can't just print money.
Right. Well, this is complex. Okay. This is complex. So, January 16th, the investment, and January 20th, Trump was inaugurated as president. Then on March 21st, a couple months later, same year, UAE formally committed to a 10-year, $1.4 trillion investment framework in the United States. Involving sectors such as AI infrastructure, energy, semiconductors, and manufacturing. Okay, after meeting President Trump and National Security Advisor.
Can I add a detail to that? Can I add a detail to that? The last time the UAE or the Emirates, like basically that part of the Arabian Peninsula, made a trillion-something dollar commitment, they delivered on like less than 10% of it over the period of time that they committed to spend.
Fantastic. That's figures. Okay, then on May 15th, same year, the president was in Abu Dhabi in the UAE, where he announced over $200 billion in new UAE commercial deals during a state visit. Okay, that was May 15th. Then the next day, Trump's tour, they finalized plans in the UAE to build like some AI campus and expanded access to advanced U.S. AI chips, okay, as part of a partnership between the UAE and the United States. Right, that's the timeline. Okay, so the reason why this is a national security concern is because before this happened, like it was U.S. policy before this not to share things like advanced U.S. chips, AI programs, and giving the UAE access to like U.S. manufacturing and AI and chips and semiconductor stuff specifically because China has significant access to UAE markets and their economy overall. They have significant access to this. Okay, so this is a national security concern.
So you're basically saying that Trump sold our technology, our confidential intellectual property in the United States for $500 million and a fucking white elephant Boeing jet.
Yeah, I forgot about the fucking jet.
Even if you wanted that jet, you have to wait 10 years. So that's why it's even more fucked up. It's like, it's so exclusive, can't even have it if you have the money.
Yeah, so here's a clean example of Trump and his family lining their own pockets at the expense of the national security of the United States. Okay, this is a clear example of that. That's what I wanted to say about like the chips and national security interest. That goes to Steve's point. Like if he's concerned about national security, why the fuck are you voting for Donald?
He's gonna keep
not to mention all the shit he probably tells Putin.
In Mar-a-Lago, the documents will be safe there. You see, like he's increasing our security by keeping his documents on his resort. Makes a lot of sense.
In a basement, like in a fucking bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, I remember that.
Where 13-year-olds are employed at the spa.
I think the reason, like, why all of this happens, like, people really argue for Trump from a certain kind of, like, demographic or whatever. It's like Bernie Sanders was really gaining momentum. And there were a lot of people that supported Bernie Sanders that stopped supporting the Democrat Party after Hillary Clinton won. And Noam Chomsky's talked about this. Trump kind of picked up a lot of the rhetoric that Bernie Sanders.
What do you call that Party?
Oh, whatever. Democrat Party, whatever you. What are you gonna get all hot and bothered by?
You just told them.
It paints your comments in a certain way, whether you meant it or not, right? So the
I've been
name
doing
of
it
the
for fun ever
organization
since
is
somebody actually
right.
So I've been doing it for fun ever since Ben got all hot and bothered when somebody else did it before, because it's hilarious.
Okay, well, do Ben trolling in Ben's room. Anyway, it's the Democratic National Party, and if you want to shorten it, Democratic Party is the more appropriate thing. So, yeah.
Thank you. Nevertheless, Noam Chomsky mentioned it about that time, as Trump was picking up the talking points and the rhetoric that Bernie Sanders set forth, that Trump is going to take that rhetoric and manipulate a bunch of poor, disenfranchised people into voting for him. And it seems like he did a very good job. Yeah, coffee. It's just fascinating. I'm just picking up on the point that, how many, was commenting about how many people support him, yet he doesn't really, and they use, foreign policy as their excuse. But it's just interesting how that relates to, the economic well-being of certain individuals, and how it seems like Donald Trump somehow manipulated a lot of poor, disenfranchised people into thinking that he was going to make their lives better. But all they've done is argue for him ever since, and not at all profited from anything he's done. But Trump coin made a lot of money.
I almost think it's like some sort of self-esteem version of a sunk cost fallacy, right? They put so much of their identity and their value of their self into supporting this guy, and now that it's obvious that he's been unsupportable from the beginning, they can't back away from it because they'd have to basically degrade their own self-image. It's build a freaking new one. Be a fucking Buddhist,
He just came out and told you don't have to make up stuff. He was asked directly what it was, and he told you it's the trans thing, right? It's not that he's in some low economic state. He told you, I don't like them trans people. Neither does Trump.
Yeah,
right?
here
They have something in common.
That's part of what I
He can't publicly come out and say that in his everyday real life, but he can say it on Clubhouse, and people can pretend that he is some kind of an intellectual, or he's some downtrodden person who's down on the luck and can't put two nickels together. It's because he's a hater. That's what it is. He has hate in his soul. And everybody's sitting around it's no problem. Keep spewing that. And let's pretend we're actually arguing.
Yeah. He absolutely supports the Constitution. He absolutely supports the Constitution and civil rights unless it benefits people that aren't like him. That's really what it comes down to.
Do you think what comes first, fear or hatred?
Well, contempt. Neither of those. Contempt does. So, but can you imagine hating transgender people so much that you think voting for a pederast thief is the right option?
At what point?
Wait, when did he start with the pederast?
Engaged
That's a new one.
in a circular firing squad because all of the options are options that we dislike.
How dare you?
Because I don't think there's any
How dare you support the trans?
Now we have
As bad as a racist, and he hates trans people. How can you support such a man? How dare you? Ambivalence.
What did I say, Benjamin? When it comes down to the people I love and myself having existential threats placed over them, hanging over our heads, and I say this as I think Trump's a threat to women. Basically, I think the Heritage Foundation is a threat to women, and I don't think that can't we all just get along sort of argument holds any water. It's useless. It's pointless, and it's a waste of time.
The can't we get all along kind of thing works until someone tells you who they are. He told you who he was. He volunteered to play the game, go along with it. He told you, I'm transphobic.
He didn't write it down in a business card, but he did everything but that. He answered the question when directly asked after LARPing for 15 minutes, because I was thinking exactly the same thing as Benjamin. Just tell us why you're protecting this abhorrent person. Why do you need him to win? Like, whatever your bad idea is, it's Christianity, whatever it is, tell me why you need that to win. What's really the motivator? And he told you the motivator. He didn't really have a national security thing. That was just to get to point number 3. He didn't have 3 points. He needed to have 2 in front of it, so he didn't sound absolutely terrible and not Mr. Rogers. Stop LARPing. Be critical thinkers yourself.
And was he punished after that? I missed it. What was he exiled or?
Are you into punishment? Is that what?
No. What happened to him? I didn't see. Did he get kicked off stage or what happened? Or did he leave?
Yeah, he got moved to the audience.
Why? What happened?
Because I didn't like him.
I mean, he was being a d-bag.
Who got moved? Sorry, I was on the
I mean, that's only fair because he's willing to throw people out of bathrooms just because he doesn't like them.
Exactly. I'm willing to bet has never in his life seen a trans person, and he certainly has not seen one in his men's bathroom.
Yeah, the thing is, most of the people
wouldn't know it. He'd be taking a shit, and he wouldn't know it because you're not running over to the stall next to you. Go, hey, is there a penis in there? You're not doing that.
Hey, most people that are worried about trans people are white people and small towns. See your dick. Right. But no, most people that are afraid of these trans people don't live, like, I fucking work in WeHo, the gayest fucking city on the face of the earth. I barely interact with trans or even gay people. It's such a rare thing. Like, yeah, it happens occasionally. And if you, like, live in fucking dipshit Idaho or something, you're worried about trans people, like, it's out of your mind. Like, you don't, like, what, it's like a phantom.
Not in any circles where you're in some kind of welcoming community where there's going to be trans people feeling comfortable to go in the bathroom while Steve is in there.
Is this a welcoming community?
Joe, why are you being a dickhead in the past?
Whoa! Joe's a dickhead.
Joe, you're a dickhead, Joe. Joe, you are a dickhead because you're too pussy to say what it is that's on your mind all the time. Why don't you just...
You guys are like really... Wow.
In the chat. No, say what's on your mind. The stage is yours. Say it.
I said, is this a welcoming community?
Yes, Joe, it is
bullshit thing.
Thank you, JC. Thank you, JCC. Thank you, JCC. Thank you. Thank you, JCC, for answering the question.
Thank you one more time, Joe. Can you say thank you one more time?
I can. Thank you, Romero.
Cool.
Joe, just
this is a
grievances. Say it.
Grievance?
Hey,
Do I have to have a grievance to participate?
It sounds like you do.
It's obvious.
I'm just curious. You never want to say anything in public, bro. Like, what's
You never want to say anything in public?
It says it's just asking to have a one-on-one talk with you. Like,
I said I like small rooms, too. It's nice to have one-on-ones in them.
Cool. You like small bathrooms, too?
I'm getting used to that, man. I mean, it's like there's a lot of gaslighting, a lot of, like, bullying. It's not even...
Passive-aggressive dude. I'm sure everyone has ever met you told you you're passive-aggressive.
Whoa.
Actually, you're the one making insults and characters.
Thank you.
The same thing earlier. You don't seem to have the
Projection alert!
awareness to figure that out.
Projection alert!
With that, I'm going to move myself to the audience. Thank you so much. We have some smart people here. Thank you so much to the audience.
There's theatrically falling on a sword. Tricky did this in just about every
Theatrically passive-aggressive move to go to the crowd.
Yeah, we should be.
And dude, the most passive aggressive guy I've ever met in my life.
Thank you, sir.
We should be intolerant of people. We should be intolerant of people who are intolerant of other people. What I mean by that specifically is like, like, do you acknowledge that trans people exist? Do they even exist?
No. People exist. But performative men that want to do performance shows in the bathrooms, those men don't exist.
That goes back to like the identity.
Those are called lawbreakers. Hello? Hello?
Tolerant, guys.
Hello?
You have to accept the worst people in the world, right? I'm being sarcastic.
Make sure you don't come in the room when Colleen's here and I mod her. I'm sure that might make you too, you might catch a whiff of her pee-pee.
A pee-pee? You might want to get a whiff of a trans pee-pee and have the joy of a trans pee-pee. Oh, the joy of trans pee-pee.
We're keeping it PG there.
Golden shower.
Hello?
Drip, drip, drip.
Hello?
Yeah, sorry about the plumbing, not the water supply.
Still fucking like aghast that that guy voted for Trump over national security concerns. That's just fucking unbelievable. I mean, like all the trade, the terrorists, the like the freaking strong arming. I mean, it's insane. But
And energy independence, Trump is not responsible for energy independence. It's just ignorant. Just read a fucking book.
one report says that since Trump took office the second term, the federal government has lost over almost 100,000 jobs in the energy sector, simply in the energy sector. That should worry people who are concerned about energy independence.
Well, yeah, but the goal is to keep brown people off of healthcare.
I was gonna say, I haven't checked on it. It's like, are they still doing the option hubs? Because if you fucking cancel all the grants on that, it's right there is a big problem.
I'll let Benjamin have a class moment. It is really just poor people in general, disdain poor, but specifically they just assume brown people are poor. So I'll lend you that one. I'll concede your point.
Oh, that's very cool of you. That's right. Race is merely a proxy for what really matters, class. Look, I think listen to me saying I have nuances in here.
But like Tulsa, Oklahoma clearly proves you wrong, right? Because those people had meetings, had money.
I think, contrary to what Cora said earlier, you can care about women and also care about another people. I think you can care about people once and also care about
Stop trying to kill my kids.
You can virtue signal about children, to Benjamin, use your word earlier, because clearly it's virtue signaling because you don't have some kind of bond with those people. You don't know who they are. You're just imagining they're not even people yet, right? So while you're virtue signaling for the unborn people, you are correct. You can have general thoughts about the idea that you don't unborn potential people to be stolen of their potential and let women have their right to vote, right? What they want to do with their own body. You can still hold those two ideas too, can't you?
Just like you can hold the idea that you shouldn't be legislating things about that limit access to people based on immutable characteristics, right? And if there's a conflict between, say, women and trans women, that's about relationship building and interpersonal and integrated negotiation between the women and the trans women on a situational basis and on just like a more regional or local basis. And it shouldn't be like in ordinances and codified and all of that, because that kind of shit changes over time, right? It's a social interaction thing. It's not a law.
I wouldn't agree with your second point. There are cases where gender matters, and it's very lazy of you.
Gender or sex, Benjamin? Gender or sex?
And that's, I think, where you're being lazy and not doing the work.
It's a blase, by the way, Benjamin.
Also, where is say that gender never matters? Like you put these words in people's mouths.
Benjamin, what decisions are so important that Jen has a big role in? Like, I get in governments and schools and hospitals that sex would matter more so than gender.
Well, just take one as an example, it's a misdemeanor to like threaten to assault somebody. I don't know what that means. You take a
That's simple for them to change that. They should be gender neutral. There's no reason why. And there are large women and small men. So yeah, that's you can't bring up one example of sort of an ill-defined law as your when most other places don't do it that way and get along just fine. That's just dumb. But that's your point. Criticize the North Carolina law.
Well, there you go. But are you going to do this for everything? You're just going to find all the places where it's...
Yeah, we fix laws all the time, right? Like,
Yeah, dude.
constantly fixing laws. We're always
We fix all
taking
the laws.
race-loaded laws and gender-loaded laws. We do this all the time, and we continue. That's a good project
in our society.
It protects people from other people.
And I would have to look into it, but I bet in reality, the prosecutors aren't charging differently based on sex. They're not.
This is we go selective
They're
service.
probably being, and this is just like you have all sorts of laws on the books that never get enforced because they're dumb now.
I just want to make a distinction in that statement. We change all the sports to be gender.
Hold on, Benjamin. Lion's trying to say something. He was trying to say something before. I don't think.
Yeah, I'll be real quick, Benjamin. I mean, it doesn't take it, but I mean, there's an important distinction between race and sex. I mean, gender and sex. Gender obviously is a social construct. I mean, sex is not. And on the race thing, Romero, to your point, versus classism, I mean, for other people who've experienced British countries, UK, etc., America is actually less classist than many European or British colonies or countries.
Correct.
Make up for it.
stuff.
Exactly.
Whoever mentioned that was kind of interesting. I'm trying to remember, what was the name of the Labor MP, Corbyn or whatever? Like the night before the results for Corbyn or whatever, it was interesting. I was at like a dinner party, and someone was saying it's starting to flip-flop. Like in the UK, they're not so Glasnost, but in the US, it's becoming what the UK used to be. And that's very strange. But imagine, I don't know what things was like in British colonies other than the US. I'd like to know more about that in the UK. I mean, classes are big. It's entrenched in us. Yeah. I mean, but in the United States, it's interesting and strange, and it's weird that, like, you run for a title of nobility and you get to keep it for life. Like, to be a senator, you're always addressed as a senator. One of the ways classism comes out, I mean, and you see it in colleges or the UK, is through accents. Like, people distinguish who you are, determine that's who you are based on the accent that you have. Yep. But it was an interesting dynamic. This person was saying, it's starting to swing the other way. The United States is behaving like UK in the 20th century and early 20th century and late Victorian and Edwardian and all this. And the UK is starting to become more egalitarian.
Well, other than their speech laws, right? Like you can be arrested for saying "Free Palestine" in public or online.
Where? Here?
In the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. No, like the UK is falling weakly in terms of speech laws.
Germany's a little touchy about certain words too.
Well, yeah, but they have good reason to censor Nazism, right? Or like,
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of took it a little too far.
Elon would have been prosecuted for what he did at the Republican convention. The symbolism.
Yes, he would have.
That would be interesting if they placed those charges like Schaumburg's in Germany. But they really impacted that one. That'd be interesting. I don't know that, like, German law is really complicated. I wonder what the standard should be so well.
I mean, freedom of speech is good, and the right to insult religions, peoples, ideologies, like that's all good. Right? It's when it becomes an action, that it can get really dangerous.
There's an interesting thing I learned from the rector at like a British American church. Like, you're free to do what you want, but you live with the consequences. I think that's an interesting way to see it. And I like freedom of speech in the U.S. It's very strange. We need to bring back America as a culture. Like, we need to have difficult discussions and discuss them civilly.
I think Marilyn Manson said it best. He said that free speech does not come with a dental plan. Okay.
I just want to say thanks, guys, for listening. I was really feeling despondent in humanity today. I mean, I posted the Martin Luther King quote. I mean, it's in the end, it's not the attack of your enemies, but I mean the silence from your friends. So I'm glad to hear people actually speaking out against this bullshit. Oh, where can we watch the Trump flip out? I heard about like this really, really sketchy video. I mean, look, I got doxing myself. I'm like listening one of the most.
So was the Peter.
Right now, so thankfully I have some good coverage.
La Jolla?
No, La Jolla's not super low.
Orange County?
Fat fuck. Fat fuck.
Huntington Beach.
That was big on Peter.
Bingo.
There we go. Well, 3 tries.
It sounds strange, like it's a surfer town. I don't know. It's just odd.
like it's where like rallies are held.
I have a cousin who lives in Huntington Beach. He's very left leaning, but he brought me there, and I didn't understand it. I said the same thing. I'm like, this is like a New Hampshire beach town with all the like conservatives and stuff.
You know, you would think surfers really suddenly. You would think surfers would be like a chill group. It is the most wound up, like angsty, aggressive group of people. Like I didn't surf for a long time just because of surfers. It's like a horrible crowd.
Where? Well, I mean, I know like Hawaii, it's pretty hardcore. I know that like parts of LA and certain parts of San Diego get that way, but like for the most part, like SD surfers for the most part are pretty high.
If you go to, well, beach breaks are usually like, if you go to a break and it's good, you're gonna get yelled at if you're not from there. Like paddle out at steamers or we didn't see in San Diego or Malibu or any cool point breaks. And, Black's English, you know, and oh, Black's is awesome, but Black's is world class. But yeah, you'll get your car. A bunch of places in Santa Cruz, like I know cars get broken into regularly just because they're not from around. It's whatever. It's just.
Well, but cars get broken into in Santa Cruz, any like period.
Yeah, I never got my car broken into. That's been strange. That's been like
always wanted. The Thomas you always wanted.
I mean, in San Francisco, like people will literally break your window for like $8 bill, right? Like I used to live in San Francisco, and I can count in one hand. Well, in a period of 20 years, I probably changed windows, I don't know, 5 times.
Sheesh. Never got any car damage in San Francisco or Santa Cruz, but I did get my car in Berkeley. I got a car stolen once in Berkeley. LA is like a surprisingly like what's the word? Kind of like cozy and comfy city compared to its reputation. It's known for being like one of the unfriendliest like couple cities in the world, but it's really not like that. I guess unless you end up somewhere sketchy drunk on accident, then it is not a friendly place.
Well, like if you live in San Francisco for like 6 months to a year, right? You learn the street rules really well because it's enforced, right? So like when you park your car, you don't have any suitcases, any backpacks, any laptops, anything. You leave it basically clean inside, right? Or you have it as filthy as you can, and that usually saves you from getting broken into. There's also another sort of unspoken rule in San Francisco that you always have to scan, 2 to 3 feet in front of you.
Did they not take your advice and get double vax, triple boosted?
That's just another sort of unspoken rule.
Top reps bringing $100 million a year.
The toning gauge, the homeless people that are losing their shit because the cops aren't really going to do much. That's another rule. There's all these things that you just sort of pick up.
Next time I visit SF, let's have a chat about street smarts for the city. I don't know SF street smarts yet. I just hang out around Old Ashbury and I love it. I feel a little obligated to defend San Francisco. I think reports of shit in the street are a little overrated.
I mean, I lived in the Mission for years.
Yeah, and so do I, and I live near there now. But I'm there a lot. But there are definitely sketchy areas, or not. Actually, I never feel sketchy. It's not like I don't feel at risk in San Francisco in a way that I might in like certain parts of New York, but or used to anyways. But there is just this like weird element that San Franciscans seem to be willing to
exist. Still American?
It's like, dude, that should not be okay. Dude, I've seen people shoot up.
Is it still American?
Dude's got a needle in his arm. Like people walking by, like it's weird. But then New Yorkers put the weirdest shit on the subways, like. Back.
These are just like things that are true for like every large metro area in the United States, probably on the entire planet, I'd say.
I think it's true a lot. Like the complaints I hear about San Francisco, like any big town, I see that stuff in any state, to some extent.
Man, the trains in Amsterdam, London, Budapest. I don't know what y'all talking about.
And what's like street smarts for billionaires? I guess that's another reason why Trump is so out of touch from reality. Like, have at least 7 bodyguards forming a ballot.
You have a driver and you don't actually exist on the street. You just go from one building to another.
Yeah, not driver, helicopter.
Yeah, because you might get, somebody might understand all the bad things that you've done and put you to death, like Brian Thompson.
Yeah, I guess it's not a very, like, down to earth kind of existence. Yeah, Trump is very, and he feels like he gets the common man, but he's really distanced from that reality. Because helicopters around and happen.
I read that like the CEOs of especially large companies have really begun to investing more in like security, personal security details, and other types of things after Brian Thompson was killed in the streets.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? We're one of the most armed countries in the world in terms of civilians, and we also have the widening gap between the wealthy and everybody else, right? Like this all seems like when that happened, it almost felt inevitable, right? It does feel inevitable to me that at some point heads roll. And I think that the upper class played their hand a little too blatantly. And that pushback was naturally going to happen.
With the statistics on that, about the correlation between wealth inequality and distribution and crime?
I don't know the statistics, but yeah, like places that have poverty tend to have harsher policing and more crime.
There's that one. I mean, what the data played out is that, I mean, a lot of people see, a strong correlation between poverty and crime, especially in particular areas. However, it's actually exacerbated or more related when that poor area is within proximity of a wealthy area. So it's within a particular region, if there are more poor people, it might actually be less crime than if it was a small amount of poor people or closely distributed between rich and poor.
I mean, that makes sense. And let me clarify something that like the kind of crime that happens in poverty happens to people in poverty, right? It's crimes against them for the most part. So I just want to be really clear about
There'll be more cases of executive protection because, I mean, these, especially with all the layoffs that are happening and, displacement, I expect that to get.
Yeah, or some of the mercenary companies like publicly traded. We're really building a dystopia fast. Like, and we really have the technology for utopia, so dystopia really doesn't exist.
Oh, huge shit.
It was built.
Huge shit.
It was built.
Huge shits. People that eat huge amounts of food make huge shits. It's the one thing people don't ever think about.
I was thinking about that, like the 90s movies about the dystopian future. Go on, Gordon.
We don't have the skin color changing technology. I mean, that was pretty cool.
Not yet.
I mean, I always wanted to be like, sort of like iridescent, like lavender, that would be kind of cool.
I think that was the whole mind with the healthcare shooting. The CEO, it's not just that it happened; it's that so many people were agree with it. I'm like, okay, one less.
Can't normalize death. Doesn't matter. Didn't have to shower to tell you that.
Well, but I think death has
Normalize
been
death or
normalized.
should not, or that, sorry, say that again.
I said you never win when you normalize death. It doesn't matter where you fall on a little spectrum.
I agree.
Most
I would
people
say
that die violently, you never hear about, though. Basically, you only hear about the death of people, publicists for the most part, or blonde women with children, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying whether I agree with it or not. Definitely not. I mean, I was just saying it's interesting how the temperature regarding death has changed. I mean, and there's a lot of cultures who normalize death in different ways. I think one of the sad cases I found out about when insurance was in China, there was a thing called it was an insurance. I don't remember exactly what the term was called, but basically what would happen is that
Huge shit.
if you committed a crime against someone and caused physical damage or handicap or disability or whatever, you would be responsible for that person's welfare for the rest of their life. So what would happen is that a lot of people, whenever they did cause harm to a particular individual, like in a car accident or whatever, they would make sure that they actually die. The reason being, at least it would just be one payout versus full life responsibility.
Damn.
People like, for example, you got hit on the street, they would reverse the car over the person to make sure that it actually died.
God damn.
It's like the Dave Chappelle piece that he did on OJ. He's like, I'm not saying I don't understand. Right? When Nicole was killed, he's like, look, I ain't condoning it. He's just saying he understands it. It's the same thing with the insurance case.
I mean, in some ways, right, death is completely normalized in the United States. It just depends on who's dying, right? So, like, if a lot of poor people die because they don't have access to healthcare, that's part of the plan. And everyone's cool with it, except for the people that aren't. Right? But you shoot one CEO. But you shoot one CEO, and everybody loses their shit. Or But I mean, conceptually, right? Like that's true. That violence from the oligarchs, from the wealthy, from the government to the poor is completely normalized and mostly accepted in society. And the few times that there's been a real pushback, right? You get gun laws in California. Gun laws happen when people who normally discriminated start firing back.
Yeah, I think the most famous example of that is probably the Black Panther Party during the Civil Rights era. Like, what was like one of the first things that Ronald Reagan tried to do when he got into office was to, take their guns away.
Exactly what I was thinking.
We got to stop political violence and stop the oligarchy with regulation.
The other thing too about like death more broadly is that, yeah, like what you guys are saying is true. Like, of course, that is absolutely right. Think about like Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Okay, they're like very public cases involving death that everybody knows about, regardless of what your views are about it. Everybody is aware of these two cases But there are other cases that people just aren't aware of. Like there's a Hispanic woman who was shot 7 times by Border Patrol, survived, and is speaking about it. And like nobody even knows who this person is. I mean, like generally in the public realm, people like aren't even aware of this. And there's other things like there's people that are from Haiti who were in the United States. They were deported and sent back to Haiti pretty recently. And some of these people have been dismembered and decapitated, raped and assaulted. Okay, they're dead by just gang violence and I don't know how specifically the thing that they were fleeing from. This is why we have asylum laws to begin with. And it's examples like this that just don't seem to permeate through the air as much as like Alex Preddy or Renee Good. And perhaps we ought to do something.
Well, when you have a group of people who would turn to you and say, well, they were here illegal, right? So they were criminals, right? So that's just what happens to criminals, right? But when it's one of them, right, all sorts of excuses. Oh, well, they were just exercising their constitutional rights on January 6th. I mean, that wasn't a coup. That wasn't an attempt to do away with our democracy. So it's like because it's so weighted by team membership, right? That makes it sort of an issue that's really hard to sort of reconcile with.
Think about this from private schools all the time. Think about like most shootings are in public schools and not in private schools. And unfortunately, if the shootings were there, it would probably change a lot more elite opinion, especially on the gun control advocate side, to do something. You know, and not that I'm wishing that, but it's far from it. But
I can't believe
it's
what happened
unfortunate.
at Brown and MIT. And that didn't go really viral, that incident. And how important that MIT did was.
MIT is like one of the world leaders in suicides for students, by the way, jumping out the windows because they can't keep up with the academic pressures. A lot to international students, a lot of Asian students die at the hands of suicide at MIT. They had to actually change the design of their building so that people couldn't jump out.
Here's a lovely one. At least 33 pardoned January 6th insurrectionists have now been convicted of, charged with, or arrested for additional crimes since the violent attack on the Capitol. It includes child sexual assault, production of child pornography, possession of child pornography, rape, conspiracy to commit murder of a Federal Bureau of Investigation agents, kidnapping, sexual assault, aggravated robbery, reckless homicide, drug influence causing death, illegal possession of firearms, domestic violence by strangulation, burglary, vandalism, grand theft, stalking, violation of protective orders, threatening public officials, and drug trafficking.
I didn't see that, but I can't say that that's stunning. What was that published in?
It's MS Now, what used to be MSNBC. Here, I'll put the article. They made a whole, like, what is it? They have a report 1 year later, after the pardoning.
Well, like there's not a week that goes by that we don't see in the news or on the internet, right, on a news website, that someone was arrested for child pornography, and they just so happen to be a conservative Christian pastor or GOP member or Republican or it's rarely ever a trans person or a lesbian or a liberal or, it rarely ever. So why is that? Why is it that there's so many pedophiles in the Republican Party?
This is not surprising to me, I tell you that much. Come on, it's a party that has welcomed a lot of house, right? So naturally I feel at home. And, you know, on public display, their very leader is a guy who is, you know, prime example of the worst human being I could even think of in this lifetime. She would have to go real far back in history, you know, for the public display of kind of behaviors that we're seeing now. It's a real letdown and a stain on American tradition and legacy, boy. I don't know, you know, I hope we can survive it one. And there needs to be a lot of soul searching and fence mending and correction within the political body of the United States to not have these weak, you know, kind of agreement level things that hold the, you know, the politics together. You know, there needs to be a lot more teeth, a lot more separation. Maybe look to other nations to see how they've been able to resolve these issues, you know, because, you know, it's allowed for a lot of corruption and rot that we're now bearing the fruit. So.
Kind of a question from Tor, but I was just going to say that you can make an argument that a synonym for diversity, equity, and inclusion is, well, take a pick. There's a lot of them, but I would say having empathy for groups that are marginalized, right? The empathy word is the thing that is easy to point to that's lacking from folks who vote against that and almost belittle it as a joke, right? So if you have obviously a group that believes that is less empathetic than actually sexually abusing or raping somebody or, you know, taking advantage of a minor or any of those kind of things, all of which the kind of things we're talking about, especially, I mean, that's like a test case for like the centering of the bullseye of where that is, you know, in the most heinous example. So it's like, that is the calling card of the kinds of characteristics that are largely found, and that's not to say it's immune from the other side of the horseshoe.
No, that's a great point. I was going to say there's a human have had a tendency, you know, large, you know, I don't know how long it's been to sexual crimes and sexual abuse, whatever you want to call it, toward, you know, underage kids. That's been going on forever. It's always been a part of human society, but there seems to be extreme versions of human society that seem to exacerbate it. Like in Roman times, just a complete lack of any kind of moral consideration, like the, you know, philosophy, extreme philosophy, nihilism, whatever you want to call it, leading to just like absolute reckless abandon and doing whatever you want kind of stuff. But then on the other side of the pendulum, you've got the extremely repressive societies like, you know, legalistic Protestant societies, really hardcore Catholic culture. You've got these extremes on each side that tend to exacerbate the problem and use it in larger numbers. Because like you said, bro, there's no way we're always gonna find examples of this in every group you can imagine. But it just seems to coalesce more heavily with those extremes of societal. I mean, you know, when they have pastors' conventions, I don't know if you heard this, but I mean, the South, the religious South, the Bible Belt, I need to look at the statistic again, but at one point it was the highest concentration of pornographic consumption in the world. In the Southern United.
My son likes to, one of the things he used to like to trot out as a statistic is the state that has the most dildos per capita is Iowa.
Well, every time there's a Republican convention, Grindr crashes.
Yeah, right. It goes down.
And it also crashed at Charlie Kirk's Memorial WWF concert. I just think for the conservatives who come in the room and mask their intentions, it's just good to know what it looks like from people that are thinking about the issues more often than not, and what people are thinking. Like like hearing the pushback, like it's to the point where, unfortunately, if you are a member of a card-carrying conservative class, you essentially are a piece of shit by everybody who's on the left. And I know it's vice versa. A really good argument, objectively, to say that that is the case. It's a more objective case to claim because of the things that we're pointing out and the kinds of things that they laugh about and rail against. You're railing against human decency. You're railing against all the things that Jesus stood for. That was the original way I opened the room and had the post from the well, I want to call him Congressman, he's running for senator, right, from Texas. It's such an easy thing to see. Like, would Jesus ever be for ICE raids? Like, would Jesus ever be for shootings in the street and deportations and everything that the right proudly snickers about when they're rallying together? You know what the left snickers about when they're together? Like when we win for healthcare, when we win for education, and we win for SNAP rights. Like, think about that for a second and think about the piece of shit that you look like. Now, you might have another argument for why you're there, but I never really hear the good ones that aren't cloaked in extreme religiosity or, bathroom break Steve there.
Or abortion, right? Oh, well, it's a genocide of unborn children.
Yeah. Well, that's about the only one that I think doesn't deserve a whole lot of scorn, and I also don't think it deserves to be a legitimate presidential kind of argument that we always make. And if we really wanted to take, we could find a way to make that not part of the presidential vote, but I don't think the left or right cares, and I don't think the media cares, because they know it's a wedge issue. They know it's what gets people talking, gets people in Clubhouse. It's an easy thing to get people inflating about, and it shouldn't be part of a political discourse, in my opinion. There are ways that intelligent people could make sure that that's not the case, and it already is kind of the case in many ways. But outside of that, all the other arguments that they actually have are rooted in where they have the clear bad side of the argument when you're talking about human rights and decency across the board. And they used to be up in a frenzy with their silly movies that they used to make about, we're going to go get the pedos and Homeland Security's going to come in and save the day. They're really quiet on that now because it was never really about that.
One of the things that I can say that I honestly appreciate about Donald Trump is that there are these kinds of people that have existed in the United States going all the way back to the founding of the country. Okay, these are the racists, pedophiles, people who have no morals, no conscience, etc. They've been here all along, and like you said, they mask their intentions, they hide them behind claims about concern with national security in Steve's case, but then because of the specific kind of nature of who Trump is and the people that he surrounds himself with, we have to have these conversations out in the open where everybody can see them. We can find out who actually does support things like child molestation, and that gives us, that unmasks who these people are. We know who they are now.
Yeah, just say you're concerned about life. Oh, sorry, I don't have any bars. I'm breaking up. I'll come back when I have.
Change the link up top again to this Con Chen one. Watch the graphic, right? Now, granted, I haven't fact checked this particular graphic. There's no reason to believe it's fake. I've looked up similar graphics in multiple decades. Right? This particular one, look at the graphic and then listen to the commentary, right? And just think what people are talking about with intelligent discourse about the relationship between extreme Christianity, prosperity churches, and people trying to co-opt Christianity to be the, as she says, chaplain for capitalism, right? And I should say the negative correlation there is between charitable giving and helping the poor and how religious you are, right? The more religious you are, the more less likely you are to actually give. That's pretty wild if you think about it. Well, one of the bedrock claims and one of the excuses for why they should be tax exempt is that they're already doing their own, God's work, and they're helping the poor. It's a very interesting, thought-provoking thing to take for people who want to choose that argument.
It feels like churches and religion in general is just a real estate scam in the United States.
I'd probably start with the church who, where the one that Don Lemon was arrested over. The church where the pastor was director for ICE for that region, for that specific region. We should start with like stripping churches like that of tax exempt status. And you can probably argue back and forth about the merits of that, sure, no doubt. The other thing I want to say about like what I said earlier, like these kinds of people have been here all along. They've been masking their intentions. Absolutely, I agree with that. I think part of the reason why they seem to be in the forefront now is there's a number of reasons, but I think one of the biggest contributors to this is that back in 1789, the founders, they didn't send just 10 amendments to the states to be ratified. They sent 12 to the states to get ratified. And one of the 12 amendments, one of the ones that didn't get ratified by the states was a bill about the apportionment, about how many people, how many elected representatives would be in the House, specifically in the House. And that one was about, basically saying that after 100, there were enough people in states to reach 100 representatives in the House. After there were 100 representatives, then the representatives would become proportional. They would scale with the population size. And after that did not get passed as an amendment.
It's a little friendly
I'm probably gonna like this one.
You old cheeky cunt, you! You obese fucking retard! Ugh, what a disgusting fucking amalgamation of a creature that produced you! Enigma! Ugh! Where did you learn your English, Enigma? The side of a turnabout of the South British Sea! Hello? Got a fucking opinion for everything, don't ya? Fucking, you probably eat a lot of food too! Fucking take huge shits every morning without tea and biscuits, you fat fuck! What was the last time your body's on the inside of a gym?
And that limited the size of the House to 435 seats. Okay, and the reason why this worked is because the founders,
Enigma, if you want to do me a favor, go in this room and say John Kitover's live streaming this to a room called Atheist Liberals, Trans Liberals, LGBT Racist Biggest TS. Do me that favor, Enigma. You'll make my day. You'll make me so happy. This is Pro Lyrical Room with Benjamin and a bunch of other atheist liberal Democrats. But just go in there and say John Kitover's live streaming this across all platforms, and you guys should be careful what you say. You'll make me so happy, Enigma. I swear to God, I'll never make fun of you again if you go in there and you say that for me.
Population, I say, live in large cities. That's just a fact now. And so, now we have, because the House now looks like the Senate, there's an outsized influence from, rural voters. Okay, and so the system has gone out of whack. That's why, that's part of the reason why Donald Trump is president.
Tiger. Hello? 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 CM, yo, can you do me a favor, CM? Can you go in the Atheist House, the Clubhouse, local news, and arguing with the awful? Can you please go in there and say John Kitover's been live streaming your room for 2 hours into other Clubhouse rooms called Trump Derangement Syndrome, Atheist, Liberal, Trans, LGBTQ, Racist, Bigots, TDS, the W Word, TDS Therapy Room, Trump is racist and transphobic. If you could go in there and say John Kitover's been rebroadcasting them for hours, I would appreciate it if you could go in there. You're probably useless, so I guess I'll just mute up here. No point in talking to you. You're probably a useless agent.
Every tree in downtown Nashville is split 8 ways. It's insane. I've never seen that.
That's because they topped them for decades, and then they got dry rot in the center. That ice storm hits and they split.
Funniest story I ever heard about Cora, Stora the Cora, is she was talking to some guy for a year, and doing dopamine drips with him for a year. And then finally he told her, he's like, yeah, I can never meet you because I'm married, bitch. And she was like devastated. I was laughing so hard. It was like the funniest story because she's like, every day we were texting, like she said it was like miles and miles of text scrolling.
Oh yeah, we're running around the neighborhood.
Why do I record rooms that are already on replay? What are you talking about? CM, dude, you can come up here and talk if you want. I get Jesus Christ, man bun. If you want to say something, just come up on stage and fucking say it. You're already in the chat, stupid. Turn off replays. No, stupid. I don't, I don't think you get it. It's not the CM show with John Kitover. Yeah, just keep trying to talk all you want. Stupid, if I go to a private with you, it's still in my other rooms. You're so stupid. Everything is recorded and live streamed. I don't know why you think you're going to want to get some kind of exclusive conversation. It's out in the public. Hello?
They have those community gardens like even in like Venice Beach, but they always get, defiled or vandalized.
Yeah, they had to be monitored because people are going to come in there and just.
Dude, you're useless, CM. You got brain rot, bro. I'd hate to be you, but I got to get to the gym, fatty, and read a book. That's what I got to do, CM. I got to read a book and get to the gym, fatty. That's it, dude. There's no fucking... You want answers? That's it. Go read a book, go to the gym. These are losers, CM. Losers. I'm recording losers. They just chant mantras all day. Their mantras are CRT, BLM, LGBTQ, DEI, PEDO. That's all they do. It's a complaint room. Oh, Andrew's the worst, bro. Andrew's got horrible brain rot. That guy's totally fucked in the brain. Anybody who doesn't go to sleep and is on Clown House all night long listening to these stupid conversations trying to play the role of Johnny Carsters, I mean, it's crazy. It's stupid. It's a waste of your life, CM. Don't be like Andrew M. And don't be like CM. CM's even maybe worse than Andrew M. Is that what you're worried about, CM? Do something with yourself. Read a book on here, stupid. Don't just talk. You talk like a child anyways. You talk like a dribbling little 3-year-old. Read a fucking book like a man. Hello?
But like if you have that in the city, you would reduce pollen, and you would reduce allergies because they're.
Go ahead, CM. Go in this room and tell them already that I've been live streaming them and making fun of them. Why did I record it? Because Andrew is a fucking loser. Making fun of him, CM. Don't you get it? I'm mocking that faggot. Just like I'm mocking you. Don't you get it? You're worthy of being mocked. Congratulations. Hello? And Andrew is the dumbest of them all. He's the king of stupids. Read a book, stupid. Go to the gym, stupid. Stop being a fool. He's a fool. You're a fool. I'm a fool, but I'm not stupid like you. Hello? Hello? Come on. See him. Go in there and tell these person I'm recording them. You're useless. Be a part of my game instead of just questioning it. Just do. Stop asking questions. Do. Do is the law. Do. That's God backwards. Go do God, CM. Hello? How is that a mock? You're not on the inside of the joke, stupid. It's my joke. I'm recording you. Hello?
Everybody needs to grow their own. What tree is it? Magnolia? I keep forgetting this, but the tree you can extract DMT from the roots of is it?
No, it's mimosa.
Mimosas, yes, everybody should have a mimosa tree.
I actually have a mimosa Illinois, which is even more potent than the hostilus, in my front bed, like right by my driveway, like an exposed bed. Yeah, and they're kind of like sensitive plants too. If you touch them, the leaves will curl up, and so like.
CM, I do it because like the phones do the work, bro. I just set it and forget it. I go to sleep. It's like, dude, people are on here giving their whole life, their whole essence, all their focus. I'm sitting here just automating, recording it for no other reason than to let people know that I'm recording their unrecorded rooms because I'm making fun of them for being stupid and not reading a book. They just talk. That's it. And it's all just their opinions. Just read to me a book, and then there will be no more argument. I know it's already recorded. The point is I'm using my account, my phone, for the purpose of recording, and it's something to be recorded. There's never any dead space. There's never any dead time, which is amazing. There's no downtime. People just keep going and going because people are trying to learn how to use
Especially
English.
now.
Like you. You're not a native English speaker, CM. That's why you're here.
Especially now. It's like
Your
sounds like
brain,
give
you
me a
think you're
10
intelligent,
extra
but you've
Clubhouse,
got
man.
brain damage, probably. Never developed it because you grew up in the slum. I don't know where you came from. But are you ready to have some fun? Yeah, CM, that's called projection. I got no problems over here, buddy. Go look in the mirror and then you can tell yourself that and say, maybe he's right. Maybe I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking about John Kitover. He's an online proficient troll, fully automated.
You can't predict when it's gonna be. It's just like, oh, they decided to swallow.
Welcome to the room, Zen.
They're trying to connect at the same time. It feels like a big electric.
We're listening to Cora and others talk about trans. Everybody's so upset because Trump doesn't like the trans. Isn't it amazing the things that they complain about? It basically comes down to CRT, BLM, LGBTQ, DEI, PEDO, and then trans. And there's more, but, in terms of the complaint, it's just so crazy listening to people get angry and screaming, you people, and then saying all the Republicans are racist, bigots, and pedos from the start of the founding of the country. That's where the room divulged, came. This is a collection of angry clowns who are political. And then if you ask them, are you political? They'll say, no, I'm not political. But they spend their whole day talking politics. So clearly people are stupid or they're fools. I can't figure out if it's a fool or stupid. But CCM writes, I'm an idiot. And he doesn't think that that's projection. When you do gossip or slander about somebody, he doesn't view that as being a projection. And thus all his insults on me are actually self-reflective moments for him. What do you think, Zen?
He hangs out in like these flat earth rooms like 24/7. And it's like, come on, dude, like, aren't you gonna spend, your time better doing mathematics and stuff?
Well, anyways, we could make fun of somebody until the apocalypse, but it won't make our lives any better, will it? Well, he wants it at 10 a.m. and I've been getting up at like 10:30 a.m., so I've been missing it. But the whole point is, it's not just about me doing it. It's about him reading a book. You don't need me to read a book. So if you want to schedule a room to read a book, just go ahead and do it. And guess what the amazing thing is, Zen? You can read a book anytime you want. That's amazing. Isn't that amazing? It doesn't even have to be scheduled for a specific day and time. At any fucking moment. Any fucking moment. You could decide to stop having forever conversations using your words with your opinions and your facts. You could just read a fucking book. That's it. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I was actually reading China in 10 words. It's a pretty good book about China's sort of, I don't know, it was good. It's really good.
Yeah, sorry if Dr. Dave is bothering you. I didn't take his phone calls, or when I did, he just said, what kind of problem you got with me? I'm like, I don't have a problem with you, Dr. Dave.
Oh my goodness, like you're calling these random numbers that you haven't really harm, and it's like,
People are obsessive compulsives. And there's just a lot of deranged people out there that, the body fails, the brain fails.
And some minds are failing earlier than others,
I agree. I would say that CM actually has probably a preliminary, what would you call it? Hey, Enigma's here! Oh, never beware, never fear! The fat bitch Enigma's there! Here she is! She knows everything, this one. She goes by the name Enigma. It's not an enigma, fat ass. Just go read a book and go to the gym. And there's no real debate, Enigma. I know you're super, super open about everything. But CM here hasn't actually made one single point. CM, I would challenge you to just say one intelligent sentence. Because I've actually memorized intelligent things, so I can actually say, yeah, I can say something smart. See that? He just keeps going on about room recordings. It's so crazy. It's like, do you know all these rooms are recorded? And he's sitting here telling me, do you know all these rooms are recorded? Why record a room that's already on record? Why you're listening to replays to record new rooms? You're crazy, John. You're crazy. You're a dumbass. Yo, CM, did you know I have a nonprofit here in Illinois? It's called the John Kitover Complaint Department, JKCD Incorporated. It is an actual nonprofit registered with our LGBTQ Secretary of State, who gave away hundreds of thousands of licenses to illegal aliens so they could all go drive trucks around the country dangerously. But you're not the first. So you see this? See all these complaints in the chat? What? Actually, let me just help these fat fucks. Watch this. Allow in-room chat off. Now where are you going to get your dopamine from? Where will you get your dopamine from? I mean, watch. They're just going to have to leave the room because at this point, now that they can't interact and get their, neurotropic dopamine processing, the room will just implode and self-destruct for them. But see, I didn't actually care that they were here to begin with because I do. There it is.
There we go.
There we go. That's what I would call neurotic implosion, where you can't get the loop and therefore you must hit the eject button. That's what's happening here. People road rage or get in a jet, and then they find out there's a system failure and the machine won't respond the way that they want, so they have to eject before it hits the ground and explodes. Let's go back to Cora and see what this tip-top cunt is saying.
FYI, if we search the database currently today, we're not going to find any information on the individual because the individual no longer lives in the United States. Therefore, any records of his offenses are not going to be listed, and Hermes is going to play that out to the T.
This is JCC, by the way. They're talking about Hermes, who claims that he was deported, but I don't think he was deported. I think he's just making that up.
He has a strong love for African Americans.
He loves a lot of things.
Why he's letting this thing go forward. So he has that's his little ace in the hole.
He's just going to say that it's like, those are fake websites, right?
Yeah. Regardless of him saying they're fake websites or not, he can't be found anymore because he lives in Mexico City. So he's not in the database anymore.
That seems like such an easy loophole.
CM is in there asking, why did the records disappear?
In the public data. Yeah, because it must be kept on.
This whole Epstein thing is really for low IQ anti-Semites. It's really giving them a whole bunch of fuel for them to go on these wild, conspiracies.
Well, if you go to jmail.world and then you go into the pictures section, I'm about to actually go in there and record it because there are a lot of photos, thousands and thousands of photos. Whoever runs that jmail.world, they uploaded not just the 7,000 emails, but like pictures and PDFs. There's so much stuff in there that it's more than just low IQ brain rot. Once you consume the data and you look at it, okay, well then we can move on to new topics. But you should spend some time actually trying to understand or organize what's in Jmail world.
Did you see that Epstein was like a transgender pusher?
Yes. Radical.
He wanted to transgenderize 3-year-old kids. It was insane.
Yes. He was interested in neuroprogramming and using,
also
abuse.
African Americans through genetic engineering. That was within some of his communication emails.
So it's not just anti-Semite brain rot. There is critique worthy because a lot of these leftist liberals are pushing the same Epstein ideology.
But, you know, it's like, why are they trying to connect it with Trump, even though there isn't, like, any substantial evidence? There's more substantial evidence.
They're
with, like,
political. They are
Bill
political.
Clinton, Bill Gates. You know,
These are the people already in charge. Meaning that the people that we witness and listen to on Clownhouse are the exact mirror of the people already running the system. At least in Illinois, you might go to Florida and like those people will laugh at these people. But in Illinois, these people mirror perfectly who's already in charge. Anybody who wants to go to a library and read a book with a drag and do a trans show for children. Oh, this is the funniest thing. I was thinking about like Cora was so angry that like trans people would try to use the female bathroom, and I'm thinking to myself like, don't these people know that if a gay man is gonna go into a female bathroom dressed as a woman and then get angry about being questioned, well, he is putting on a performative show in a bathroom at Target. But these people, because they force the word trans as being, legitimate, they just play into this whole performative, like, mind virus hypnosis. And it's just so funny that this is where it goes. Like, this is their defense. This is their credibility and their endorsement for themselves that they endorse performative trans art in Target bathrooms as being a legitimate form of artwork. But they can't even see that it's not, they can't even see it's performative art. They view it as a human rights issue and that they or this group is a protected class. It's so cringe and so stupid.
What about like the transracialists? You know, like it's like what you were saying, performative blackness, like blackface. But similarly, it's performative womanness or performative manness, I guess.
Enigma says that I'm a lonely man. Enigma, you could be projecting your loneliness onto me. I'm actually somewhat fulfilled and happy that I get the ability to critique these critiquers. Because again, Enigma, you've probably never seen Mystery Science Theater 3000, where these group of funny people watch a movie and then they just like make fun of it. This is my comedy, Enigma. I'm making fun of people like you. It's not about my loneliness. It's a show that I produce, Enigma. I'm not necessarily getting paid for it yet, but this is what real art is. It is self-critique. And my self-critique is that I probably smoke too much weed, drink too much, don't go to the gym enough, don't read enough books. And meanwhile, you want to come in here and criticize me in the chat. Let me turn the chat off again as another neurotransmitter test. Here we go, fat ass. There you go, you fat cunt. Can't put anything in the chat now. So what are you going to do? You're going to take your fat fucking finger and you're going to click to another fucking room and probably write in the chat in another room of mine so you can continue to play this game, you fat fucking cunt. Here we go, fatty.
Hermes was
posting pictures of women in, provocative positions and claiming and using that as PTR and claiming they were his girlfriends, and so Rohan called him out on it and put it to the forefront of his sexual offenses in his history, and that's when it all exploded.
And I think Rohan, I think part of it was the women in his photos are almost always women of color and black, and I think that just his general demeanor, I think bugged Rohan in a pretty bad way. So I don't know exactly how that turned into doing a background check, or I'm not exactly sure.
Rohan has
they had like a personal beef based on that kind of stuff.
He picked the wrong guy too, because Rohan has a business, well known, that is like a black Airbnb that was dealing with discrimination for people of color going to regular Airbnb. And I would assume, as I know, that background checks may be part of the process. So it may be a function in his business.
So he's already got a subscription to whatever service.
Could be, yeah. I think it's highly probable if he's running an Airbnb-like business, that background checks are part of that system.
It's like having the Hardfax subscription, yeah.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Too bad for Hermes.
And also, Rohan is just a stand-up dude in my book. So, just It's a completely different level of trust.
Some of the recent
Yeah, I
chats.
agree. I think Ron's a pretty stand-up guy. I don't know. Yeah, I agree with that.
Zen, if you can go in there and say, John Kitover's been recording this room and doing an analysis of your Trump derangement syndromes and projections, because Pro, who is not in here anymore, was calling people passive aggressive. And it's just amazing listening to projection. For example, one schmuck on here, I can't remember his name, he's a regular schmuck. He said, you're an obfuscationist sophist, or an obfuscationist Socratic. And that's exactly what he does. It was like a perfect projection connection. It was very funny. You know.
I recently found out that the owner of OnlyFans is extremely religious.
From our own mind, you know, our own words, our own matrix. So it's like whatever sort of insults we're throwing out, it's actually insults that have been cooked up internally, not about the other person.
That's what projection is. You're literally projecting your inner feelings about self onto somebody else to get a dopamine response. They're trying to gaslight or trigger me so they can get the fulfillment that they're looking for, but they lack the self-awareness to know they're projecting. And it's just, you know, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And it's like, I'm happy to basically be funny enough to say, hey, I gotta hit my projection alert bell. I think you're projecting. And then we can like break their hypnosis. And then I think we actually raise their IQ in that moment where they go, fuck, he's got me, you know, but no one will ever admit it. So it is what it is.
What's crazy about, you know, that guy CM, he's like supposedly like this math professor, but he's on here 24/7 in some of like the most like low IQ rooms, like flat earth rooms, and he's there being modded with them, and he's like, come on.
I mean, he woke up one day and said, yes, I'm going to be the villain of the story.
Wow. Facial feminization. FFS. That's awesome. Strip it down to the bolts and nuts. I want to look like my facial cranials. Could you imagine being the surgeon, say, you know, like how the surgeon lives his life privately, making all this money doing like radical mutilation surgeries?
It's like out of like the worst horror show that you've ever seen. Some of like this transgender stuff, like they invert your penis.
Yeah.
They peel off your face to shave off like the bones.
But is that really any worse? Abortion has got to be the most vile thing because you're taking an innocent like alien baby floating in a fluid, and you come in like, see, the thing is we just don't have the cameras to actually show us the look of horror on the face of the baby as its arm gets ripped from its body, and it like looks to the right and it's like, what the fuck? And this baby just starts screaming. So I'm just saying, like, you know how like Dr. Pimple Popper like makes a lot of money by doing ASMR pimple popping videos? We need like the abortion ASMR doctor to like record murders.
Well, you know, they banned ultrasound like videos.
Did they?
Getting an abortion.
Oh man.
Yeah. Where they're like, no, you can't do that. That's like psychological trauma to the mother.
Yeah.
I got an ultrasound session all day tomorrow, and Sunday I'm going to San Diego, spending the night, then driving to Texas the next day.
Yeah, wild. You know, they were talking about abortions, and they were kept bringing up legal liability, and liability is just like another word for responsibility. And so essentially, we have legalized responsibility out of the equation of a baby, meaning that we've legalized murder and the lack of accountability or responsibility, and thus removed all liability from anyone involved in a murder. And so,
See that payout though? That there was this trial where like a person, a young girl who was like 13, got her tits chopped off, and then she sued once like she turned 18 and got like a $2 million payout.
Yeah, I saw
because
that.
like she wasn't warned about it.
That's great. I mean,
yeah, no, and we need a lot more cases like that to really turn this around. But it's crazy to see like how bought off the judicial. It's like judicial tyranny here.
It is. It is.
Do you see like how many injunctions have happened against like the Trump administration? Like more injunctions during this administration than ever.
Yeah.
Like throughout like the entire history of the United States.
You know, it's just the microcosm and the macrocosm are the same in the end. It goes to a judge in a court. It doesn't matter what the topic is, even on the question of who is the president. These electoral colleges, the electoral college, the Congress, the House.
Yeah, with George W. Bush.
Yeah, it will go to a.
Chats.
Yeah, it'll go to a court. It'll go to a judge, and then it'll get issued a summary judgment and a written response. And it's like, what? Why vote? Why don't we just let judges decide if that's where it's going to go every time? It's crazy.
But do you see like what's happening in Virginia now, like with the 10-1 redistricting of like the congressional seats? Like it was like 5-6, now it's 10-1. And there was like a judge that ordered, hey, this was unconstitutional in the state of Virginia. But the Democrats went ahead and did the redistricting anyways.
It's funny, like Kim Kardashian wants to be an attorney, but she's already like more powerful than any attorney can ever be. You know? It's like, it's so superficial. It's
especially, you know, like we live in, you know, sort of like this, you know, have you heard of like the phrase attention economy?
Yeah.
Like we live in the attention economy. Literally, like everything that we have, like, is our attention. And so, like, Kim Kardashian directly goes to what, like, you're saying. She has such a great amount of influence through attention hijacking that it doesn't even matter if she becomes exactly like a lawyer or anything.
You know what's crazy is it's like the belief that robots and see Elon Musk is the biggest fucking liar amongst everybody because he keeps pushing this like interstellar civilization bullshit. And if you just look at it from like a hypnosis communication perspective, he's just publishing science fiction. But yet when you're the richest man in the world and like you're not concerned at all about anything other than pushing out like sci-fi propaganda. I mean, come on, man. Like, that's not intelligent. That's not patriotic. I mean, I know he's not an American. He is a fucking East German. And on X, under Adrian Dittman, people are still so sensitive about if you say Adrian Dittman is Elon Musk, they go crazy. So, there's like ways to know what the truth is. And on this app, literally 99% of what everybody says, the exact opposite, is what should be the norm. But it's not.
Well, you know, like science fiction is like the dialectical opposition, right? You have science, which is based on like hypothesis and testing, and then fiction, which is just, you know, Lulu Dreamland, you know, from the Aboriginals. You know, like, so when you combine those two words together through like the use of magic, you can, it's very powerful hypnosis.
They should do a, not a draft, but they should have an opportunity for Americans to go to some type of American Patriot military refining, like summer camp, where...
Especially for like these big cities, yeah. Like something like the YMCA, but for like the government, right? Something that happens like in Israel, where you serve the army for 2 years, or like the civil corps go out and improve, you know, certain parts of America.
See, what it does is, it's not just about it is about the personal development, but it gives them an accolade or a resume item to separate them from what we know is a left woke mob of brain rot. Guys like Pro Lyrical, what's really funny is when guys like who come in and they scream wigger at him and they say you're just nothing but an effing wigger. Like he is like an Eminem type wigger where I'm not using it like to say that you know, because if you say wigger, it immediately brings up the N word, but they're separate words. And so the part about the monkey cage, and like I think Trump just got in trouble for taking a photo of like Obama and putting it on a monkey or something. That type of response to a juxtaposition or basically art, when the critic becomes an insane silverback violent critic, that's when you have to try to capture it as opposed to like respond to it seriously. Like in these social audio test spaces, we have the ability to control communication. And too many people on here give up the control of communication and fall for these fisher nets and these spider webs. And you know, you've witnessed me for a long time play the spider, play the fly. Like to me, I'll play any role as long as I'm filming it because I'm the final catcher. You're a catcher too now with your YouTube channel. And that's the ultimate position to be in, is to be the person recording it. And the best position is to know your position and record them, but actually not even listen to what they say because you have essentially siloed them or categorized them or what's it called?
Reframed, you know, you reframed their viewpoint, their worldview in your own framework that you've built, your own matrix. Yeah.
Well, it's an opposition because most people will say that we need unity. But the truth is, this is a political war because when you hear what they say, I can never be a part of what they're saying because what they're saying is so stupid and so radical that there's no compromise. It's simply somebody said that Trump has the ability to compartmentalize, and so like if we look at this as like one giant, you know, unity chain of communication, you have to essentially do compartmentalization. Um, you know, but that's why recording them is fun because it they don't even know they're being recorded. And the funniest thing is, if nobody will say that they're being recorded, it doesn't impact them. And even if they, like a couple weeks from now, if they were to go back and say, yeah, John Kitover was recording all of our rooms and putting it on YouTube like 3 weeks ago, no one will ever go back and it won't matter. It's the same thing as a tree falling in a forest. There's nobody there to hear it. It doesn't matter. But I don't even have the number of accounts. Like, it's too hard to keep up with it, to go in there and say, hey, this room is being recorded. And then they block that account. It's just like cat and mouse. But I feel like recording them but not having to listen to them is my ultimate solution. So right now I'm getting ready to set up more recording studios so I don't have to listen to them, where I will come in every 3 hours to check my recording devices and then leave. But I do not want to spend my life listening to these people, but I do want to record them. Does that make sense? Ding ding. Yep.
Yeah, no, they're narrative pipelines for the mainstream narrative production, you know, facility. They're psychological mirrors, you know, like what they're saying are just the exact same sort of narratives that are being propagated through the mainstream news media anyways. So
my worry is though is like sometimes if they know I'm recording, they're glad that I'm recording because they know that if they have the mic, their hypnosis is the true narrative because the medium is the message. So if they are dominating the medium, it doesn't matter where they're being promoted on. They think that they will be interpreted literally. But when I cast them onto my branded, you know, profiles, people who watch it might know that I'm being critical or sarcastic with regards to what I'm publishing. But I worry sometimes, oh no, maybe people won't know and they'll think I'm promoting this speech. But I think in the long run, people will know that I'm being sarcastic and recording them.
that's like a sort of process that I'm trying to do as well is I'm trying to automate like the recording function and like having automated like these neural intelligences to like make an automated title for each of the YouTube videos so that hey, you know, like I don't even have to like listen to anything they're saying, put the title up on YouTube, broadcast it, and just automate the whole process.
I heard somebody in the Bitcoin room Sometimes you hear some gems, but it's always still spam. Meaning, like, if they found a loophole, guess what that loophole involves? Spam. So they're using these chatbots to do mining to a certain extent, and using AI like functions or AI agents to spoof. And so, if you can spoof or make it look like your account on some platform, like a music app or a gambling app or something, is bigger than it is, it gives you some influence. And whether you can monetize that influence or not, is questionable. But, you know, it's so the thing to me about life, which is the great comic joke or the universal joke or the great tragedy, is that almost all profit in this economy is artificial. And so there could be no profits if our Federal Reserve and Congress weren't willing to produce the trillions of fake currency every year to actually stimulate or what we call growth. So it's not, the thing is, it's like that could be depressing to some people, but if you actually can accurately describe it, it gives you a power over other people in a debate. And so our lives are short, but our words, every single word, is actually essential in your success. And that is your financial remuneration for your ability to control speech. Welcome, Danny, to Trump Derangement Syndrome. We're listening to TDS sufferers do their talk therapy for the day.
Embarrassed in here like yesterday.
This is CM.
I'm not really a make fun of person, but
yeah.
Like our actions. Once an action is done, it's sealed. Even God Himself can't undo an action. Like that was like one of the most powerful like axioms and like moral philosophy within that book that I read. That was just so impactful, and it kind of reflects to like what you were saying in regards to, our words are sort of like the thing that we're binded by in history. So it's a fantastic book, and I just have to thank you for I don't think I ever like.
Oh yeah, you don't have to thank me. Every time I've ever opened Morals and Dogma, I've always just like gone on a vacation like joyride where I'm like, whoa, 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 like whoa, whoa, like that book is intense. It's so incredible. And as an American, like that's our document. Produced in America, supposedly transmitted out of UK to France to the Caribbean up to us, but like that transmission is like extreme intelligence, but the whole thing is in English. So we live in like an English industrial complex, and all of these participants are participating in an English industrial complex or an English paradigm. Like Tiger down there, if you speak Mandarin or Cantonese, you're playing the same game over there but in a different language. So if you could become multilingual, that's a great power. But these things mean nothing compared to like the power of a Mark Zuckerberg, who has a $300 million yacht and a $30 million carrier yacht and a private island, apocalypse bunker in Hawaii, and he can't even get into China because the Chinese understand brain communication, programming, NLP, all that stuff. So.
Did you hear about like that huge shakeup in China's like military leadership? That Xi Jinping was like kind of like people off from leadership roles in China in the military positions.
To know about that.
Yeah, it happened like it's been happening like the last couple of months because they've been like selling state secrets from China.
That's so crazy, isn't it? We're 39 trillion in debt, and we're spending money bribing people probably overseas to give us like information that they stole from us, and we the taxpayers. Like some woman just murdered somebody in our neighborhood and she got a 45-year prison sentence. I'm like, you just made this bitch's retirement. She was homeless. She just got an upgrade from the taxpayers because she killed somebody. Why don't we just blow her brains out and put her in a fucking shallow grave in a cornfield and save the money? Because at $70,000 a year for 40 years, this bitch just got a $3 million fucking taxpayer retirement vacation, and she'll probably get it. Anyways, it's a joke, but.
Do you ever hear like that idea taking up resources and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
they better be
heard
used
theories
for
like that.
fertilizer.
I've heard theories like that. But I mean, to say something. See, the thing is, I know that's not true because, I feel bad when I call people stupid. So I'm like, okay, I'll call you a fool. But the whole point is, I know you're not stupid because you can read the same book that I can read that I think is a genius book. You may not comprehend it the first time. It might take multiple reads, but eventually, if you were to work with me and read the same book, I could confirm that you're not stupid, but you're a fool who's no longer even a fool. You have a genius manuscript of divine illumination. So it's like nobody's actually stupid. People, it's just an attention economy, and like you said, the attention or the focus of the self is all you really have. Doesn't matter whether you're in a prison like Jeffrey Epstein or back in his mansion. He recognizes that the only thing you have is the present moment, which is the now. And so that's why I say there's a lot of hope for humanity, but how do we get people to give up their political position and transcend the politique for the magic? Because any word with a C is connected to magic, whether it's sympathetique.
Correspondence.
Yeah, it's correspondence. But anyways, this is a game that people will have to figure out on their own because it's just too hard to get people to drop their shtick. So many people have done the same performance over and over and over and over again. That's all they can do at this point. Like Danny down there, somebody yesterday was making fun of her. They were like, "Oh, Danny, good to see you didn't change." They were calling you a retard, stupid. They're like, "Oh, you're still retarded. Congratulations." I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, "That's so mean, so accurate, though." Like, Danny, are you still retarded? Like, you got a kid for God's sakes, and you act retarded. I'm not trying to be mean, but like, read a book or something. Like, grow the fuck up. Do something different. That's what we're saying. Is probably read a book. Probably start with a fucking Danny the Book series, and then you label it like chapter number 1, and then you fucking read a book, Danny. Don't just come on here and say retarded things and listen to retarded stuff like Mr. Jeff's room, where people are talking about their fucking, what they're ordering for dinner. What a waste of your life to listen to this stuff. So, without further ado, I give you more retards. Oh, by the way, I'm the founder of I Find Retards. Many people don't know this, but I find retards and I give you retards. More retards for your consumption. Yeah.
There's this account called Retard Finder.
Yeah, Retard Finder. That's me. That's me.
I'm going to say premise 3, information is mind independent. Okay, fine. The term subjectivity doesn't come up. That's not true either. What did you say? You're really bad at this thing.
Yeah, that's been also a rejection of that premise too. Information is not mind dependent. That's been my whole
Depends on the definition. Give me a definition of information which is not mind dependent.
Go ahead.
Many times, a rock alone has information, right? A rock is not mind.
Wait, but now you're just presupposing you're just making the question against my argument.
You agree that most people would translate.
Don't use that word.
One of the best things about these rooms then is they do not play copyrighted music. So I could confidently leave right now, go to the gym, come back, and this room will still be going, and they will still be probably talking about the same topic 2 hours from now.
The actual definition is that you don't like my definition.
That was not my argument. So now you're lying.
Why do you bother with these people?
I can't imagine, right? I didn't say I didn't like it. I gave a very good argument for why I reject your definition. What was it?
I didn't give an argument. You said something like.
Remember what I said.
Now notice this is a native English speaker versus a non-native English speaker. So if the whole point is to argue definitions, why not just read books to each other? We're already talking. It has to be the dopamine that people are getting from this. No one is gaining any greater knowledge or information about anything. So that's why it becomes like an ESL training simulator.
No, you didn't. You did not listen to what I said. What you listened to and what I actually said.
Which room is this? I kind of want to get an audio recording.
Okay, so he's saying you didn't listen. Why don't you try to steal man his position about the amendment? Is that fair?
Yes, completely. So he said something like subjectivity requires the existence of a subject. He doesn't like that, right? He doesn't think subjectivity should require the existence of a subject or should presuppose its existence, and therefore it's going to have a different definition. Who cares? None of this is relevant.
The problem I have with this disagreement with you is that in philosophy, subjectivity refers to the perspective, the feeling, beliefs, and the desires of the individual subject.
Okay, you don't Google that, right?
A rock can have perspective, feelings, beliefs, or desires. Now, maybe a rock can have a perspective and a certain kind of relativity, right? But I think that's a different thing in physics, activity, and not meant commonly by the word subjectivity.
You're really confused. You're utterly confused. So you can't deny collusion by reasserting your original hypothesis that rocks can't have subjectivity, or rocks, the ground, or the fundamental source of physical reality is not subjective, right? That's not the way this works. Either you deny one of my premises, or you deny one of my premises. Basically, the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises. So which premise do you deny?
P2. I deny P2.
I think I deny, based on your, I don't think you got a chance to really express this properly this afternoon, but based on this morning.
All of them.
I think I would contend that you don't have a consistent definition of words across the premises. And therefore,
it's worse than that. The premises are over. Premise one, you emerges from the table and right. The fuck does that mean? We already pointed out information is subjective. That's just wrong. And premise 3, subjectivity requires.
See, it's the exact opposite of everything is the truth.
Like, minds can also make objective statements. Like, everything a mind says is.
Information, that there is a reasonable definition of information that does require minds.
I agree that
It's like saying every definition requires mind to make
what definition of information requires mind. Now you started that I'm equivocating in one of the premises. So I'd like to know which two definitions you think I'm using. So I'd like to know, tell me what an equivocation fallacy is and which two definitions I'm equivocating on. Go ahead.
I think that you equivocated on the definitions of premise 1 and 2.
Okay, so which two definitions am I being on? Which two definitions do you think I'm using?
If I understand it right, the universe requires information.
Okay. Are you going to answer my question? Do you even know what the question was?
This one you proposed.
Do you even know what the question was?
The universe requires information, and premise 2, you claim that information is subjective, but I would contend that the information that the universe depends on is not the same kind of information in which it makes sense to say that information is subjective or requires a mind.
What question do you think you're answering right now?
Categorical. I think that what's happening is a categorical error across
okay, more than that. Oh, you're still talking. What question do you think you're answering right now?
Benjamin, the way you should ask this is like, okay,
he's not going to answer questions. Okay, this is not if he wants to dodge questions instead of Elliot jump in.
I'm gonna look, because I thought the same thing that Benjamin thought. Okay, like clearly there's an equivocation going on in premise 1 and premise 2. In premise 1, it said, you're right, entangled equivocation. Just hold on. I'm explaining the equivocation, right? So you say specifically entangled information, and to me it seems like you're talking about something that has to do with either quantum mechanics or some kind of information theory. Okay, and information in that sense is objective, meaning you can describe like facts about things that are not dependent on anybody's feelings or values or opinions or anything like that. Okay, that's information in that sense. And then in premise 2, you say information is subjective. Okay, but it's also true that information of a different kind, like what someone's opinions are, what their feelings are, what their values are, that is subjective information. This is a clear equivocation.
Can you define equivocation for me? I don't think you know what it means.
Nobody thinks.
What are we in the third fucking grade now?
I think it's the same as making a category error, which is to say that you think that two things that are in different categories are in the same category. That's an equivocation error.
Okay, so if they think I'm making a category error, then tell me which two definitions I'm conflating. Go ahead.
Well, I think that in premise one, you use information in an ontological sense, and in premise two, you use information in an epistemic sense, in other words, what we know. And that's a category error, because information ontological information is not epistemic information. That's a category error, and I feel that you equivocated the two. That's my position on your proposal.
Well, clearly not, because premise, which one is it? Premise, just gonna pull up the argument. Yeah, premise 2 clearly says information is subjective, right? So I'm saying information simpliciter, information simplicator.
The implicit here is that all.
Am I allowed to talk to you, Benjamin, or you just wanna talk? So premise 2 simply says information simplicator is subjective, so it can't be equivocating because I clearly defined all information, including entangled, whatever, to be subjective, and the conclusion necessarily follows from the premise. So you can deny the premise. You can deny premise 2 and say not all information is subjective.
Amendment for the purpose of the room and mine. The word simpliciter here, does it just imply all cases of information? Is that what it's meant by simplicity?
Yes, I'm quantifying over all information. I'm saying information has a subjective property. It has a property of being subjective.
Yes, false.
Well, I just reject that simpliciter note, right? I think that there are different kinds of information, and some of them follow this premise, and some of them don't follow this premise.
Okay. You can give me a definition of information which you think captures objective source of information.
Well, if I had a hard drive and I had 10 gigabytes of hard drive.
I asked you to give me a definition.
Information, what is conveyed or represented by a particular arrangement of sequence of things. That's one definition.
Okay, we can examine whether that's subjective or objective. Okay, so I'll give you an example. So the definition you gave is some sort of sequence which represents. Sorry, you said represents something else.
Yeah, another information definition is facts, data, or instructions in any medium or form.
Okay.
Both of those definitions are not mind dependent. It does not require mind for that information to exist.
Okay, let's just go with the first definition. The first definition is you have some sort of a symbol or a mark or a pattern which represents something else. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say you make a vertical chalk mark on a board. You tell me whether that represents the number 1, whether it represents the letter I, or whether it represents the sun, the word sun in Chinese.
It obviously depends on context. I remember.
Yeah. You're telling me the representation depends on the subject.
The sun is mainly made of hydrogen and helium. That is not subjective. Information is not necessarily subjective. You're done it, bro.
Okay. Wait. So now you're considering representation is subjective. So the first definition is subjective. Okay, let's move on to the second definition. Sorry, what was the second definition?
You can't do that. That's not a move we're gonna have.
What didn't Siam just say? It depends who the subject is, who the interpreter is.
No, that's not what Siam said. Nor was it what I said earlier when you tried stealing at me.
Okay, Siam, repeat what you said.
I said
you can have information that is objective, like the information.
Okay.
The sun.
That's a bad example, Steve. Hold on a second. That's a bad example.
Not about that.
Hold on a second.
What is subjective about what I'm saying? How is that?
I'm trying to explain, CM.
Go ahead, explain.
Yeah, you probably should go on mute now.
We're discussing representation.
And I meant on, you need to go on mute too, because I'm trying to explain something to CM. Here's why that's a bad example of information that is subjective. Is because in that sentence, the sun is the subject. Excuse me, subjective. Because in that sentence, the sun is the subject. Okay? So that's why it's a bad example.
That's not a bad example. I don't care about your.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
I don't care about your semantic.
Here's a better example.
An objective is an objective.
Here's a better example, CM. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a better example of information that has no subject.
Okay, so back to the subject. Okay, we're discussing whether the vertical chalk mark,
Yeah. So
vertical chalk mark on a backboard represents the letter I, the number 1, or the word sun in Chinese. So
that's not the question at hand.
Yeah, that's an example of mind-dependent information.
That's not the question at hand.
No, the question at hand is delineating things that are not mind-dependent, and I'm giving him rebuttal that not all information is mind-dependent.
Right, I already made that point.
No,
can you give me an example of a representation which is not mind dependent?
A rock. A rock has information. That rock exists regardless of minds.
Right.
Wait, do you think a rock represents something?
Yes.
What does the rock represent?
It has information in it as well. That's why I talked about the earth earlier.
Encodes information, right?
That's why
I think you're really confused.
That's why I
So
talked
if you
about
tell me what can a rock represent anything?
Structure does encode information, and then when you carve a 1 into it, its structure now encodes information.
Well, it could encode string information based on what question we're interested in asking, right? So if, like, let's say an English speaker comes across a rock with a vertical mark in it, depression in it, he could say, somebody wanted to inscribe, hey, that means the letter I, or maybe it means, but if a Chinese speaker comes across it, he's going to say, hey, it's the word sun. But if there's no subjective observer, it's not going to represent anything.
Yeah, all you're doing is you're pointing out
in what
representation
of any physical entity you represent anything.
Representation is going to be subject dependent. That's all you're pointing out. Is that the symbol to ration mapping is going to be subject dependent, and I agree with that. Right?
Okay, cute. So the first definition of
No. We didn't address the first definition.
Involves the word representation. Subjective.
Mapping.
Okay, let's move on to the second definition of information. That was
not the first definition.
That was the first definition.
No, it was not the first definition. No, it was not the first definition. No, we'll move here, right? What I have agreed to so far, you then should support with first definition. You can't just make that move and then get away with it. You have to actually take what I agreed with and then make it match the first definition.
Okay, so I'm talking about 2 definitions given by JCC. The first one is information is some sort of a pattern or data that represents something else. Since that definition involves the word representation, and we saw that representation is subjective, the whole definition itself becomes subjective and therefore
I disagree with that.
Okay, we can move on to the second definition.
No, I disagree with that, right? You have to actually address the disagreement because it's going to be substantive.
I mean, you can say that it's subjective, so I don't know what you're pointing.
Substantive. The disagreement is going to be substantive. Do you understand what that means?
Substantive. I think you mean substantive, not substantive.
No.
Conditions, right? And accents and all those things, right? If you understand the commanding conveyed,
Yeah, I need to.
Well, okay, so you see that it's subjective, then, okay, it's mind dependent.
I didn't say it was subjective. Nobody
is
Oh,
that
I drink on
subjective?
purpose.
That it's subjective. What are you talking about?
No. What I said was, hold on. What I said was, the choice of symbol mapping
Find
to
retards.
representation is going to be a subjective choice.
I
It's going
find
to be
retards.
mind dependent.
I drink on purpose. I find
And
retards.
he thinks it's a one, and that guy thinks it means the sun, right? I've agreed to that. You then have to map that back
Come to my place.
to the definition, and then point at the thing that we're pointing at, and not the act itself.
Oh, I'll make
Okay,
you a
sure, I
drink.
can do that.
Right? You have to point at the rock, and not the god.
Can I try? Instead of you asking me the same question 5 times.
No, because you keep on demanding it's subjective.
I'll make you a drink.
So if you think that
I
the
find
representation
retards.
is contingent
Come
on
to
the
my place. I'll make you a
interpretation,
drink.
like you can't have a representation without the interpretation, as you call the mapping procedure, then, and if the mapping procedure or the interpretation is subjective, then since by virtue of being contingent or dependent on the interpretation or the source of interpretation, the representation is going to be subjective.
Okay, but that's wrong.
Drop a huge load.
Why is that wrong?
Because you're now pointing at the rock.
Drink some coffee.
Mapping it to a not the answer mapping.
Drop a huge load. Drink some coffee.
And saying what I'm pointing at is the act
Find retards.
and knowing that means the sun. And I'm saying that's subjective. What I'm now doing is you're now pointing at the rock. So I like to support my argument, right? And I'm pointing and what it's agreeing with is you've now changed the subject. Yeah. So we're no longer talking the act of creating a mapping from symbol to representation. We're now talking about the symbol itself. And that's changing the context of the argument.
Well, the symbol itself cannot possibly be the individual rock because you can have the same symbol. The same representation.
I still
You can have the same symbol, the same representation found in many different rocks. So am I allowed to respond or
yeah, you are, but I want to put a kibosh to that, right? Because that's supporting.
Okay, so I'll respond after you're done.
That's supporting the stance-dependent side of the thing, right? What I'm arguing is the rock itself is objective, exists regardless of minds. The rock itself has information. That information is completely mind-independent.
The
river
Yeah,
flows
I don't have a car. Fucking Uber here, nigga. Uber here. I'll drive you home.
What the fuck? Why the fuck do I get the
Uber
fucking
here. I'll drive
goddamn
you back.
disrespected when I'm supporting my fucking argument? I'm gonna fucking flip the fuck out because all you arrogant fucks feel
Uber
the
here. I'll drive
need
you back.
to kibosh my argument with dumbass Agamemnon.
No,
Agamemnon.
we're agreeing with you, JCC. I said the river flows on.
Right?
I said the river flows on even after you're dead, which was in support of
Hey guys, if I have to jump in here and try
What
to
about
make
you,
this work, I will, okay? So here's what I think we
Uber here.
just where I think you are. ACC made a coherent argument, it's different than T's. I would like to hear Agamemnon respond to ACC's argument, so I'm gonna restate it best I
I
can.
put it in chat too.
I'm just gonna try to get JCC.
Why everybody gotta talk for me, goddammit? I'm not a fucking you fuckhead. Fuck Todd.
Okay, Agamemnon, can you respond to JCC's argument, which I thought was pretty decent?
Oh, you fuck.
The rock has information in it. What would be your response to it?
And then, my response is, sorry. So my response would be that information cannot be identical to the structure of the rock because you can have the same information, the same representation found in a different rock, right? So it cannot be identical to the rock. Right. Just to continue. Sorry. I just want to get the premise though that you just put forth, right? So I'm not done yet.
Well, no,
I just want to finish.
Please let him finish. Please let him.
Why? He put forth a premise.
Please let him finish.
Why? He put forth a premise.
Oh wait, who keeps doing that? Look, please just let him finish.
So by applying the law of identity, the representation cannot be identical to the rock because you can have the same representation in a different rock, right? So it cannot be identical to any specific rock.
Say the rock. Let's say
Furthermore,
say the rock.
I just understand it.
Well,
I just get to the like the.
I'm trying to help you and other people follow your life.
You're already wrong.
How about you doing?
No.
Look at how driving back. How about you doing?
You're not helping me by
I'm in the car. Let's go.
You're not helping me by interrupting me. So
Go ahead.
the second part of this is that we say a representation is the outcome of a procedure where you take a symbol and you interpret it. Okay. Now, given the fact that the interpretation procedure or algorithm depends on the choice of the person doing the interpretation or the subject doing the interpretation, the representation itself is going to be subjective. And look, you can understand this very intuitively. The vertical mark on the rock can, to somebody, a Chinese.
We didn't bring up any marks on the fucking rock. You're diverting from the subject at hand. You're filling in stuff that wasn't mentioned. You're a dishonest interlocutor. Fuck off, Agamemnon. My argument stands solid as the fucking rock I'm using to demonstrate the objective nature of information. Does not require a blow at your ass, Benjamin. Doesn't require a mind for that rock to have information. Do you accept or do you deny that?
I mean, absolutely I deny it because the way you defined information is by a word called representation.
I didn't mention representation. Nowhere in my fucking definition did I say representation.
Nice.
Don't guide me, Benjamin. Why do you
jump in here? God, because I just have a responsibility to keep the room sane. All right. I'm gonna try.
Keep it sane by removing him. He'll be sane if he's not talking.
I'm gonna try to do a little JCC anger interpreter. JCC is wondering, Agamemnon, to be honest, I am too. If you could tell us if this representative information is an important part of your
Honestly, Benjamin, you're like the worst interpreter possible.
Or is it an optional to your argument? Because if it's optional, could we try the argument without the use of representation? And if it is a requirement, then can you tell us how it works? Necessarily.
Important part of the argument, because remember, we're talking about what the definition of information is. So the first definition I brought up is information is a reduction in uncertainty. And
We don't accept that.
That's not a definition.
You don't accept that. You accept it.
If he wants to the word in the first premise, he can do that. As long as he doesn't redefine the word in the second premise, he hasn't broken any rules. So if he wants to say information is a reduction in...
Who cares? We told him we don't accept his definition.
Optionality?
Reduction in uncertainty. His definition is a reduction of uncertainty. I'd like to get to
the end of my sentence because it is very muddled and confusing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so
I want to get to the end of my sentences because like right now,
That's different.
as long as he's consistent in all three premises.
Sure, he can use sharing information in all three premises, but he doesn't.
Well, maybe he doesn't. Let's let him try.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to get to the end of my sentence. It's like really confusing. Okay, so
I apologize.
I ask. Okay, so I said the premise 2 just says information is subjective. Okay, and my way of supporting it is subjective. To go through various definitions of information and to show that all of them
Shannon information.
Use the Shannon information. Let's go down the list. Okay, the first definition.
Is the Shannon
I'm going to give several
definition which says it's a reduction in... I don't know why this one is right. No, because that's what we said. We have to go consistent.
Get it all out.
We just said you have to stay consistent. You're going to start with Shannon information. You have to stay consistent information.
I think good progress.
Oh, no, you may go in one week and then start talking over. Hold on. Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. You scared me and then started talking over me. Okay? Hold on. Hold on a minute here. Right? Okay. What I said was you have
to start with Shannon information and then end with Shannon information. And it has to be Shannon information at all points in between. You can't just mid-premise, in premise 2, go, now let me switch definitions to this other definition.
Yeah, I think we've established that. Agamemnon, can you just use Shannon information in your language and see if that makes it all work?
Yes, I can, but I just want to finish what I'm saying because I feel like T is interrupting and I can't. Like he's interrupting.
Of course I am. It might help if you use Shannon information in your premises. Maybe
Sure. No, I just want to take it one step back and then I'm going to get to Shannon information, okay? So the step back is I asked for alternative definitions and JCC provided an alternative definition in terms of representation.
No, I didn't say representation. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Here's what you're lying. Fuck you. You just got as fuck. I'll reiterate my definition again. Right? I put it in chat. I actually put 2, right? One definition is what is conveyed or represented by particular arrangements of sequence.
There you go. That's so confusing.
No, I'm not confused. I stand corrected. My other definition was facts, data, or instructions in any medium or form, right? So none of that requires a mind.
Right. So I made the distinction in JCC's definition 1 that you're now choosing to ignore, right? And the distinction being between the information and the act of mapping it to representation. They are 2 distinct things, and you can't confuse the 2 because one is the information and one is the act of mapping the information to a representation. Okay, now I'm gonna get to Shannon information if you don't mind. So I'm gonna argue that Shannon information itself is subjective, it's mind dependent, and I'll give you a scenario, or I'll give you here's argument for that. Given that the formula for Shannon information is the negative log to the base of 2 of the number of physical states a system can be in, it really depends on what question you're asking. So the number of states depends on what question you're trying to get an answer to. So here's the example. If you flip a coin, you can think of the outcome as being binary, tails or heads. But suppose you're not interested in whether it comes up tails or heads. Suppose you're interested in whether on the dime, FDR's, Franklin D. Roosevelt's head is pointing up or down, or to the east or to the south. Now suddenly, instead of 1 bit of information, as in like a binary outcome, you get 2 bits of information. But suppose instead of being interested in whether FDR's head is pointing up or down, you're interested in whether it's pointing, to the southeast, to the southwest, to the northwest, blah, 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 blah. To what degree it's pointing. Not only you can get 360 outcomes instead of binary. And you can extend the thought experiment that depending on what question you're interested in, the coin flip can contain an infinite amount of information. So again, subjective. What's the argument?
You're just asking different questions.
Hold on just a second. What is the argument that the coin flip can contain an infinite amount of information? Because you smuggled that premise in at the very end of your argument without an argument for it.
Oh, okay. You're just asking different questions.
Okay, here's the argument. Post-flip, and I'm going to generalize the argument. Post-flip, the number of physical states the coin can be in is infinite, right? Because it can be represented on a real number line. It's begging the question, which contains an uncountably infinite number of data points. It's not begging the question. Look, it is because you're now. I'll give you an example. That which needs to be demonstrated. No, I'll give you an example. No, you're begging the question. So you give me an example. You're begging the question. You're not begging the question. You're assuming the conclusion in your first premise. That which needs to be demonstrated, you're now stating that your first premise. But here I'm looking for, which shows how I'm not begging the question. So you need to give me an example. You just need to stop begging the question. I mean, your examples suck. Maybe you can let me get to the end of my sentence. No, good example. You can address I'm saying about begging the question, right? Well, you're just asserting I'm begging the question without listening to what I have to say. I pointed out that what needs to be demonstrated is now being asserted. Right? Well, I can't demonstrate it without you giving me a chance to point it out. I don't need an example because I just need you to acknowledge that what needs to be demonstrated is being asserted by example. Right? I can't demonstrate it. I can't demonstrate it without giving the example. No, you can't. You can give a mathematical proof, for example. Right? You can give a logical syllogism. You can give a deductive argument. You can do anything without providing an example. Okay, but one way of demonstrating it is to provide an example. No. So why are you trying to prevent me from doing that? That's just going to beg the question. How is it going to beg? Because you're going to assert what needs to be concluded in what needs to be concluded as your premise. Okay, here's what I'm trying to demonstrate, okay? What I'm going to demonstrate is that contains an infinite amount of information. Why are you trying to cut me off? You can ask an infinite number of questions. Hey, Benjamin, am I logic on here, or is it going to be like, oh... No, bro, you're wrong. Address that. It's going to be... you can ask an infinite number of questions about a coin. So what? That doesn't mean... That doesn't mean that it contains an infinite amount of information. Right. Well... it's not just you can ask an infinite amount of questions about it. It's that the number of physical states the coin can be irrelevant point. You can ask an infinite number of irrelevant points. Why are we talking about infinite now? Why is infinite? Because now you can apply that formula to Shannon information to the formula, right? Because what you're talking about has nothing to do with that there is an infinite way. There's an infinite way Shannon information gets the result, right? Any given unit. That's all you're pointing at, right? It doesn't have to be 360 degrees, does it? No, it doesn't have to be. It can be infinite. It can be an infinitely fine grain. Right. So that's all you're pointing at. You're not pointing at this. It can be infinitely. The physical state post-split can be infinitely fine grain. You're not actually pointing out that there's an infinite amount of information contained within. Right. What do you mean? That's exactly what I just showed. I just proved it. Look, I can prove it mathematically. No, Agamemnon. You are asking an infinite question. Mathematically, what are you talking about? To have an infinite amount of information, like a coin toss or something, or like rolling a die, you'd have to have an infinitely sided die, which is fucking impossible. Like, you're stupid, bro. You have no idea what you're talking about. Here, I'll give you a scenario where you don't have to have an infinitely sided die. A coin, okay, and then suppose the coin lands at an orientation. Let's say it lands heads, and then you divvy up the angle from 0 to 360, but instead of like having integers, you divvy up in terms of the real number line. Now, since the real number line is infinite, in fact, uncountably infinite, let's say the coin lands 0.00250011, I don't know, infinite degrees pointing to southeast. Since that number line is infinite, the amount of physical states the system can be in is infinite. But that number line isn't infinite. That number line is limited by entropy. It's a real number line. No, it's limited by uncountably infinite amount of digits. It's limited by entropy.
Why are we now arguing infinite? I mean, that's not the whole... Let's get down to the brass tacks. Fucking A. Shannon's theorem. Hold on, please. The source coding theorem, which is Shannon's first theorem, states that the maximum average number of bits needed to encode a source is its entropy. You can't compress below entropy without losing information. So that number is not infinite, it's limited by entropy. That's Shannon's first. That's really that's just assuming entropy cannot be. I didn't assume anything about entropy. Okay. Shannon entropy. Entropy is defined in terms of Shannon information. Next, if Shannon information is defined in terms of the number of
practical capacity.
Okay, go ahead. Just
Yeah, we're getting to it, right? We're getting to
go
it.
ahead.
Just cut me off. Next, every channel says Shannon's theorem. Every channel has a capacity. C is equal to the max of some of subset of P over X given Ix y, right? This is a maximized mutual information theorem. It reliably communicates that it's possible at any rate where R is less than C, but not other than C. This is the famous Shannon limit. Whose communication is possible up to a capacity, right? And so when we're talking about the limits for information as bounded by entropy, then what you did is you took a specific example, which is going to be bounded entropy, which is to say that every single time you flip that coin, that is going to be an expression of entropy, right? And that right there is going to have a limit. So the amount of times, the amount of information, for example, means that you can determine whether or not the coin came up heads or tails is going to be limited by the number of times you flipped the coin. That's what's being said here. That's what you're missing, right?
I can completely grant you this point. It's not relevant to the conversation. Here's why. Because I can grant you that the upper bound for information is not infinity. The approach is infinity, or the upper bound approaches some very large number. It doesn't matter. Well, really,
theoretical space, sure.
Right? I just want to finish.
No, I'm agreeing with you. That's a bit different. Like on the chalkboard. Yeah, I agree with you.
No, not just the chalkboard. On the coin flip. I can grant you that the upper limit of the information is some very large number. Doesn't matter.
I'd rather argue with the Christian arguing for gays is why they voted for Trump. So yeah.
Okay, is it going to be you guys? You're not going to let me talk?
Yeah. I'd rather you just disappear.
Okay.
Well, the reason why is because this is a perfect example. Like, you don't understand the difference between data and information. You're putting out a lot of data right now, right? There's very little information content. You keep repeating yourself and getting it wrong. So the information content is nearing zero. Because the data, because you're divided by the data, and there's so much fucking data. Just talk too much.
I think you left, Andy. But again, you were saying something trivial. If you ask like an infinite number of questions, you can potentially get an infinite answers
for them. Well, that's stupid, right?
It's ridiculous. It's trivial.
Well, I guess the claim was that, like, well, the information just went up because I thought about it differently. It's like, well, no, it didn't really, because, like, if you had ones and zeros before, so I'm imagining like a spreadsheet, I have a column of ones and zeros. Oh, now I have a column of angles. Well, you didn't see that before. That's a different data set and a different question. We got to start over with that. And also, like, now that thing could be, you have the infinite choices. Well, you're dividing by an even bigger infinity because now you have this even larger infinite space of possibilities. This is so stupid. This is dumb.
Yeah, well, it's really dumb.
And it's not even to the claim that the universe emerges from minds as well, or it was mind dependent either.
No, we don't get anywhere. We don't get anywhere near minds in this. The whole reason for Shannon information is to define axioms against which we can do things like, build signal processing queues. Because we do. Like, we run up against the Nyquist limit due to Shannon information, right? That's just like, something that us engineers need to be aware of, right?
And the only people who actually want to support the claim that the universe emerges from a mind are those those who believe in a God.
But I thought my example was pretty fucking right on, right? The number of times that you can determine whether a coin is heads or tails is just going to be limited by the number of times that you flip the fucking coin, you stupid fucking moron.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't think that's the best understanding of the Shannon information in a rolling coin. Better example would be how many times you could divide up a circle in your ability to perceive the coin. So if you could tell in the immediate detection that the coin is straight up, let's say if you can tell to the closest hour of the clock where the coin is right now, then right now the coin has one of 12 states. If you can tell it to the minute, then it has one of 60 states. But your ability to perceive its state will limit the amount of epistemic information you can extract from it. But
hey, Benjamin, you have no idea what you're saying, bro.
That's ontological information that it would take to describe a coin is unbounded.
No, bro. You have no idea.
Information.
If I want
that information doesn't bound ontological information, only bounds.
Shut up with these words. I have no idea what you're saying, Benjamin. If I want to specify a point on a unit circle, I only need two pieces of information: an x and a y coordinate. A point on a unit circle is just 2 points, an ordered pair.
Right. To point out
arbitrary
number of
every
points
point on
is
a unit
stupid.
circle with 2 bits of information: x, y. 2 points of information.
2 bits of information.
He means 2 bits.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. He means 2 bits of 2 pieces of encoded information, which colloquially can be said 2 bits of information, right? It doesn't literally mean the two binary pairs.
Yeah, but those 2
It's not an
bits, as you say, could be of infinite resolution. Ontologically.
But that's the thing that's being pointed out that's stupid, right? To point out that there's an infinite number of points in the circle is just navel gazing.
Or the same thing as in a unit in an interval, there's an infinite amount of points, and so it's like saying you can't measure the length of anything because there's an infinite number of points from A to B. Like, this is how stupid what you're saying is, or what he was saying.
Data and information.
But the observation that you can't measure anything was actually a very important observation in math that led to the discovery of fractals. Why are you discounting it so rapidly and vapidly? It's actually a very interesting axiom. You should know it.
Even explaining a fractal is not an infinite amount of information. You can express
the length of a river is a fractal, which by definition the length of a river is infinite and arbitrary, meaning you can decide that the river has any length you want by simply choosing the length of the measuring stick you wish to apply.
All we're pointing at is
again,
information is.
That becomes equivalent, Benjamin, to there's an infinite number of points on an interval.
I don't think that Shannon.
It's called the coastline paradox.
It actually captures this challenge.
Bro, shut up, man. If you want to measure the coastline of, say, the British Isles or whatever, yeah, depending on how.
Can I just ask a question? What is it about Agamemnon that has rattled your brain so much that everybody on stage is angry? He's a dishonest
laughing.
He's a dishonest He has little to no.
He's a dishonest interlocutor. He's a dishonest.
I didn't find him to be dishonest.
Well, because you're in the same category, Benjamin.
I've known that guy for years.
I put you in the same box, Benjamin.
I don't care.
Yeah, they
I know you don't care, and I don't care what you care. So there you go, Benjamin.
In math, there's an old saying, like, a fist has an infinite number of points on it. That's true in math, but in the actual world, that's not true.